Okay, we're alive now. And I'm going to be getting into something I'm not too sure if I should be talking about, but get it out, middle of the night, last minute stream. Seems like a good idea, and hopefully my phone does not actually disrupt too much of my flow. So we will be going into EFAP, the down the rabbit hole of EFAP, Mauler, and maybe some other questionable stuff. So EFAP really has a fairly solid record for having good criticism. At least that's how it's perceived, unless you're one of the EFAP haters like Phantom Initiative, Jack Saint, blah, blah, blah. I do believe that there are a couple of other moments, and I think that can tell you a couple things about EFAP. So I might be speculating, so beware. It's just some of the pseudo psychology bullshit that I like to pull out of my ass. I'll try to preface it that this is my opinion, this is why I think, because hot taking coming probably. So, out of all the hot takes, pretty much EFAP has supposedly had. Let's start with the mildest one, which is really just Rag sort of backing up someone else against Doom Eternal. And since it's sort of linked, I can bring up the reaction of to someone I think isn't a very good critic overall, being critiqued himself. A British potato on him critiquing Rags, blah, blah, blah. Let's get into this shit now.
There's another strange thing too with the controls for it. It's that when you dash into a wall, you automatically grab it. However, if you're not dashing into a grabbable wall, you have to hit the button to grab it. So if you're dashing into a wall, before you learn that it automatically grabs it forward, you hit the grab wall button because that's intuitive, and that means you let go of the wall.
Yes.
So that's an odd gameplay decision instead of keeping it consistent with itself.
You know, I guess those 11 hours.
Yeah, the Hassan clip is incorrect. Is he going to rebuke this? This is something I could definitely say when you start playing the game, you'll notice. Of course, you get used to it as you're playing. Let's see how the British potato and his counter goes to it.
Hours are going to start biting you in the ass right now. Because this is fucking horseshit. He's either lying, he didn't research, or he's just blowing things out of his ass. I'm going to take all three of them. Because that's not fucking true. The button that you press, the latch onto the wall, is usually the button that you use to interact with shit. To get off the wall, you don't press the interaction button, you press the space bar. I even went into a fucking nearest wall in one of the missions, and I kept pressing the interaction button on that fucking wall. I stayed there. The second I came off was when I pressed the space bar. And even when I pressed the dash, I latch on, I fucking pressed the interact.
Well, maybe Rags, the PC elitist, was playing on a different control scheme and with a controller. Going to the console would hurt him a lot.
Key, nothing happened. So maybe if you want to start questioning odd gameplay mechanics, which I would say that would be weird, maybe you want to double check your facts and make sure you're actually fucking right so you don't look like a massive fucking dumbass.
Okay, Rags is half right on this, and to be fair, I forgive him for sort of misremembering this strange feature, because I would distinctly know when I attempted playing this game again on PC that when you dash into a wall, it glues you to it, but when you're not, you have to press a button, which has caused many an accidental slip up on my part. I don't think Rags is saying that because you instinctively press a button while you're on a wall that you'll slip off, but that because in some instances you don't have to press it, and other times you do, you psych yourself out from doing it. Also, you say that if this was in the game, it would be weird, but honestly, I'd have trouble believing you'd concede one problem with Doom Eternal with the way you're responding to this.
Yeah. But I think it was really poorly done. I think I'd have less of a problem with the platforming if it was more interesting and well done, but it was just dull filler.
Super agree with you.
Oh yeah, of course. Crymore is just gonna hop on the rag stick and just believe anything he fucking says without actually fact checking himself, just so that's why he has someone that's, yes, finally, I'm right on something for once in my fucking pathetic life. And there he is right there. That's someone that's just bandwagging on the, oh yeah, the game's shit, ha ha ha, I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about, but I agree. Fucking moron, man.
And who are you if not a dick writer for this game and all the others who dick write it the same way? Like the game as you want, but you're one to tell others how they're flag serious on an argument where you're basically a fireman for defending this game.
So yeah,
I agree with this. I admit Rags definitely did not have the experience to really critique it to the level that most fans of the game would like. I can agree with some of his sentiments, and I disagree with other ones. Let's see if he has a hot one. 3 is the number.
the platforming wasn't great for me. I still think the game is perfectly playable. I just think that it is a
Yes.
flawed game.
I don't know if APB is surprised that Moriarty thinks the game is alright in spite of its faults, or that he can't believe that his sacred cow of his is flawed in any way, but let's hear it.
Okay, well, every game is flawed and playable, so that's a weird thing to say. The only game that I could think of that's unplayable is
Oh, I love people when they have nothing. That's a weird thing to say. If it's weird, why are you mentioning it? You just want to use the John Tron meme, salty British potato. I haven't even really had much interactions with this guy, but he knows about me and I'm hidden in his comments. Score 1 for the infamy now.
fucking buggy piles of shit, like Anthem or something.
I love how him saying every game is flawed comes at a cross between him saying that Doom 2016 is a shit game compared to Doom Eternal. It's almost like he's just dismissing the extent of flaws that can make a game enjoyable beyond being insufferable.
I guess. And every game is flawed. I'm not going to deny Doom Eternal does have flaws, but everything you guys say in this video aren't the flaws of the actual game. They're just shitty points that aren't developed or looked into or don't understand game design worth a fuck, which we'll get into, trust me.
Well, don't you worry, APB. I got however long between the start of this video.
Okay, yeah. As I said, a British Potatoes criticism is rather crap. If you're curious about it, basically a pushback to Doom. I think this some guy video, horrible name by the way, 912. If you're interested in the Doom Eternal, sort of a response to a response, Rags to a British Potato to this some guy, check out this video. So that really was uninformed. Rags, a little bit weak. He didn't put really all the work into it. And I'm not even going over the mess that is Terriers. If anyone's curious, Southpaw has a video that'll come out eventually, I guess, going over all that bullshit. I don't really want to go too much into that. But I have noticed some interesting things. Yeah. British Potato is not a good critic, and he does not take good criticism. Like, he even noticed this video and his little dodge. Finally, someone made a response to me. 10 out of 10, just that. Also, would watch, but I hate hearing my own voice. It's like a nails on a chalkboard. I mean, it's not just I'm responding. Just a fun little fact about that. And okay, going into this. Let me go on a really quick side tangent because this just struck me as a little odd. I might be commenting on this later. So, EFAP discusses BoJack Horseman. I don't think this is a good show by any stretch of the imagination, but I haven't taken a
before
serious
we go
attempt.
anywhere further, I guess it's time, Fringy.
Oh, okay.
I suppose you're welcome to provide all the context you want and take the lead, but chat,
Okay.
you're in for an adventure.
When after I think while I was watching Buffy and Angel with Mauler, part of the idea was like, all right, you show me one of the shows that you think is good.
It's very
I'll show
reluctant,
you one
so
of the
I'll
shows
speed it
that I
up to
think
get
is
to the
good.
point I'm trying to make.
And the show that I elected to get Mauler to watch was BoJack Horseman. Prior to watching BoJack Horseman again over the last couple of weeks, my perspective on the show was that it was really good. Like I had quite a favorable view of that show. I hadn't rewatched any of the seasons past season 3, and I think season 3 came out like in 2016. So it would have been a while since I'd like properly rewatched them, but I had seen them all and I had a really favorable view. So we started watching BoJack Horseman, and we sort of kept going and going. And by season 3, I was starting to get very frustrated with the show. And so after all of that, we get to the end, and my perspective on BoJack Horseman is not only is it not a good show, it's actually bad.
Oh
it
god,
was
here we
quite an
go.
adventure. Do we want to like run through the?
Yeah, never liked BoJack Horseman. I mean, it had its moments, it had its charm, but it really just was a brain drain on me. I'm not here to defend this, but this is just to highlight Fringy sort of brought this to the table, and his perspective got changed on it.
So part of the problem is like I feel like talking about the comedy is something that we need to come to later. I think the fundamental thing to address. So when you watch BoJack Horseman from beginning to end, like if you watch all of the seasons back to back, one of the things that you'll notice about that show is that it has a very rigid formula that it follows and that it goes through every like repeatedly. So the big, broader formula for this show is if you break it down by each of the seasons, excluding season 6, but only to a certain extent, episode 1 is like, this is what this season will be about. And then episodes 2 through usually about 8 or 9 are largely unimportant, and nothing particularly important happens when it comes to the main BoJack story. Then by episode 9 to 10, things will usually get a little bit more, important. Episode 11 in every single season, like the penultimate episode of every season, is like the dark episode, the drama episode, and without fail, it's usually the best episode of the season. But again, like to say that those episodes would be good is like, the only one that I think is good is The View from Halfway Down, the second last episode of the entire show. But every single season does that, and then season 12 usually brings it right back down, or right back into comedy. We rarely like address all of the important stuff that happened in the episode before, and then we sort of have our lead in into the next season. And that is the formula every single season. And once you start to notice it, it kind of becomes impossible to ignore. And the only time that it changes is in season 6, because that one has more episodes. But you could argue that the formula is the same, just extended. And between those drama moments, which, let's get real, guys, that was the stuff that people are interested in. I would like to believe that people weren't watching the show for the comedy, because I don't think I ever was. But my view of we'll get to the comedy later. But one of the things that you notice,
didn't notice this before. Jay pops out of this.
Formula is the same.
I don't think it matters.
And between those is really not. It's mostly just jokes, and most of the jokes are not that great. Damn, like I feel like and the drama is like even deficient. It becomes more deficient as it goes on. Like starting up with season 1 and 2, the drama for BoJack is like working. It's fine, if not a lot of it. But then the more that it continues to go, it starts to break down, because they keep adding on new things while ignoring the things that they had already set up, until right at the very end, when it all just gets heaped on in a very contrived way. And then when it comes to every other character, we don't have a lot at all. Princess Carolyn would probably be like the second most developed character, and even then there's a lot of stuff that we skip over. There's a lot of content that we just don't.
Yeah, he goes over this whole thing.
It feels like there are a lot of scenes that are missing. And then when it comes to the last 3, which is Diane, Mr. Peanut
I'm a
Butter,
weirdo,
and Todd,
so.
Mr. Peanut Butter and Todd could almost be excluded from the show, and very little would change. I mean, obviously a lot would change in terms of like the relationships with the other characters, but the things that they've got going on is so minimal that it honestly feels that the further we get into the show, the less they know what they want to do.
Come on, Frank, speed
Todd
up.
basically exists to go on these crazy, wacky adventures that are totally unrelated to the main plot. Mr. Peanut Butter is usually just like look at me, I'm a stupid doggo, and I'm going to cause shenanigans. And then Diane, who I think by the end of the season has been completely obliterated. At the end of the show, completely obliterated. Basically,
how long
it's the same
is
situation with
Fringy
Twitter,
going
except
to
she
go
is meant to be taken
on
very seriously and
sort of
basically places herself on a
highlighting
very high
this?
pedestal. The show forgets that she wrote a best-selling book many times. BoJack, he smokes a cigarette because he's a kid. Listen to a line like that. Sorry, it's cartoonishly evil, mind. Because like she got a lobotomy. She told her that the character's just choosing, and with him, but all after that,
These things are supposed to be jokes. That's Fringy's point.
that's the point. Oh,
Okay.
funny. Meanwhile, this has come up to this point, the most dramatic moment throughout the entire show. Like
People can say, to be fair, these things are supposed to be jokes. That's Fringy's point.
That's the point. Like,
Okay, it's almost 10 minutes before we get anything. This just strikes me as incredibly weird. Yes, I agree with the sentiment. I don't know why anyone would like BoJack Horseman or consider it good media to start with. And this is, of course, cut out. It just seems very odd to me. Yeah, as I said, down the rabbit hole, I might have some hot takes myself. Fringy's hot take, my hot take. So let's get into what I really want to get into. Yes, I'm schizophrenic in this. This is what I really want is been going at. So I said, Southpaw has his little terrier's take, and I went over way too much. I was helping Andrew Clark pick up clips. I came to this video because I wanted to know about this. And I probably shouldn't have talked to Southpaw, but I was asking him for the clip so I could get the context. So that's how I got down this whole rabbit hole. And let's just play
been
this
claiming.
one part.
This is not the first misrepresentation amongst Wolf, by the way. Let's read out his next set of messages.
Yeah, personally, I think SK is really has a negative view of this whole thing. And I have a little timestamp, which should be correct, which cuts him out. Nah, I guess you can listen to him for a few seconds.
In regards to the situation.
Doesn't
I
sound
watched
that
through
bad.
3 seasons of Avatar: The Last Airbender and watched my childhood memories go up in flames, but ultimately think the experience was a positive one for me. But you tapped out at only 2 episodes despite fervently arguing how wrong they are. Kind of makes your pin tweet sound extremely...
Okay, this is what I want to do. Whole big shabam is somehow Wolf got the idea that Avatar: The Last Airbender, it made his childhood memories go up into flames. Okay, this really strikes me as very weird considering the pushback. Number one hot take for EFAP was their Avatar: The Last Airbender take. Just got a few here. Mauler's EFAP's worse. I can't even disagree. I can disagree with a lot. Going over Southpaw, Mauler's limited criticism from the clip I got from him in there was rather bad, in my opinion, when you go through it. I don't want to go through that whole autistic session, but it really, really is the freaking... Here's one video covering it. Did I watch it? Maybe a while ago. This actually changed hands. This was from Skibbs. This was originally on a different channel, and it got taken down from Skibbs and moved to this. Then there's this whole EFAP, Mauler, Avatar, whole series.
But hey, everybody! It's Burglar 2-3 here, and I'm mad.
And guys, I'm Joe, and I'm not mad yet, but I also just watched. Well, I am mad. I just watched episode 3 of The Legend of Korra,
and we're mad.
We're mad. We're mad.
So this has been something
Might be bad.
I've been meaning to do for a while now, ever since don't remember what it was, but a trailer for The Last Airbender came out. My dad was like, I went and watched it from beginning to end.
See, this guy's
Favorite show
really
of all
helping
time.
things.
It's fantastic. I rewatch it every year.
Ryan has told me that this video that we're about to watch,
The video. So this guy, maybe he realized he fucked up. I actually liked it because I was
bad.
very bad. Trust.
Well, the first time I had credibility by giving my opinion.
Subjectivity. You can like something, but if it's bad, liked it was because it wasn't what people.
Wow.
A little bit of history. I haven't.
He really goes into this beginning part. Oh, sheesh. Don't like to do this sort of content, but yeah, this is one of the videos covering this. Maybe watch it on your own time if you're more curious about the details. I don't want to get too much into it. Probably going to scare people away with how schizophrenic this stream's going to get. But yeah, let's just say I've been watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I'm not understanding any of the criticism. For the sake of time, probably watching one of these videos criticizing it is not the way to go. Let's actually start with, one of my schizo theories on this. So, you have this. This EFAP happened shortly after Wolf left. Probably about, I believe it was February 20th. And Rags threw out this comment at the very end. And you'll see in the comments, I marked it myself. Avatar: The Last Airbender is terribly written as sequels. Zuko's inconsistent character is Kylo. It's going to be a lot of straw manning and not explain their points, but some people really go into these points. Probably not here. On the other video where he fights against, not a lot pushing back because there's not much consistency here. Let's go to my little clip. Pause it because definitely number one worst take of EFAP.
Shit, from what I've seen.
You mean
Bounce
the
it
James
back
Cameron
a
movie?
few seconds because I'm a moron.
Yeah, well, it's the whole outrage culture thing, right? It's just like find someone else to be angry at. Go.
This is why so many of them are actually addicted to being angry at things.
Gokunaru will be coming on when? So he was the planned guest to do the Van Helsing thing with. There's no reason why we can't set that up sooner rather than later. I think EFAP is
Yes.
relatively freed up right now.
Okay,
We've
I'm
already
an
got
idiot.
next week's episode.
It's shit from what I've seen.
Avatar: The Last
You
Airbender.
mean the James Cameron movie?
It's shit.
Oh,
apparently.
that too.
Talking out of his ass.
Listen, y'all need to wake up.
God.
Listen, I know you're gonna hate me, but man, you can
Yes.
fucking bust out some references here.
Yes, they will hate you just for this one comment in this one EFAP where you don't even talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender. There's supposedly a lot of stuff happened.
We might want to have to devote an entire EFAP to it if we ever get around to it. But man,
Clue, they don't.
from what I've seen of some of this show, I have no idea why people think it's so amazing. I've heard it's so great, and from what I've seen, it is just awful.
Rags, look at that chat. Look what you've done.
Yep.
All right, that's fine. It can be like that.
ER is actually in chat.
ER is in
Fine.
chat.
It doesn't change
Rags.
the stuff that I've seen. The actual retardation that I've seen in these
You've
episodes
done
and clips,
crossed the
like, I
line,
don't know how y'all
ER.
do it. I mean, I guess I'm glad that you guys
ER
like
hurt
it,
you.
but man,
Rags,
I don't think
I
I've
will
ever.
fight you to the death on
You
And we
this.
got sequel level writing here, and
That's Star Wars girl. Rags, I will fight you to the death on this. Hilarious.
You got
People get a
Theo,
pass.
that Star Wars girl.
I think you should
ER.
just bring ER on and we should just watch the Tard fight that happens.
Oh my
Would
god,
be
chat
great.
is very.
That would be funny. Unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. So obviously, this was such a big deal. I don't know how it turned that way. This really should have not turned out this way. That update. I had a friendly conversation with Wolf and ER. We went over all the issues we had. Should I talk with the British? And let me not do that. Talk with the issues we had while talking about a lot of praise for the show. I want to clarify. I think it's better than I thought, but I would still maintain it has some significant flaws. Now, if you could point them out, that'd be nice. Wolf feels like he's on the fence about the show, and he wants to clarify there were elements to compare with Kylo Ren, but Zuko is significantly better. I think that's a totally false equivalence or inadequate comparison, even. Sorry, that just hurts me. Love the premise of the show. I just think its execution is a tad flumped. Not really looking to rile any of you up. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see how that works out. Told for a long time by many people that it's a masterpiece of a show, and I'm like, I can barely rate it as okay, possibly be exception that I've got to be honest with the issues I have with it. Also, people are curious why I don't continue with another video. I figured since we clocked 5 hours, blah, blah, blah. Deflection. Sorry, Mauler. I don't. This was 3 years ago. Okay. Yeah. Little dated. Definitely. This has not, until probably the Terriers thing, this has not happened again. And I don't think it's happened since Terriers. But it is quite interesting. The fights over some of this in this certain time period. Yeah, some of the comments. Okay. Response to someone talking about ER. Actually, I was hoping to speak with ER before discussing Avatar publicly. After all, ended up being that way because of jabs and statement being thrown around. So I assume they recorded this call with Wolf, ER, and Mauler here. Stream, try to avoid it as I could. Wasn't going to lie, ask direct questions. Yeah, I think that's probably one of Mauler's problems. He does not like anime in general, so of course he's going to see the flaw. I mean, yeah, American anime. Well, technically, I think it was done in England. No, Korea, if I'm remembering correctly, or I could be missing it up. But yeah, all the tropes, all the annoyingness of anime is in Avatar: The Last Airbender, along with a lot of filler episodes. But I see it as sort of a Star Trek. It reminds me a lot of Star Trek, the episodic, but it goes with the more episodic formula, building up to a greater grand narrative at the end of the seasons. More like Doctor Who in recent years. So, yeah, Rags definitely does not like anime in general, so that makes him a horrible judge of this. But Mauler seems to have wanted to go into it. And it's quite an interesting thing for Mauler to attempt to do there. So, Avatar: The Last Airbender, all the videos. Not going to be dealing with that. There is a bit of this that I'm going to be looking at later. This is one of the, no, yeah, this is the video to his response. But that's not really when I want to get into it. As I said, you can watch any of these to judge for yourself if Mauler was unfair. I'm not going to tell you if these videos were any good. Personally, I think just some of the comments on this EFAP mini is a much better reference to go by. So I keep hitting the wrong one. Sorry if anyone's there.
And then
and here we are. That's why I didn't make a cut, because comments are going to be a must here. And you got all these comments pretty much panning. Get into one of the good ones where this is definitely good. Aang was informed. I want one of the ones with the timestamps so I can check the validity of them. Like, okay, let's start with this. This far, the contrived beginning.
Gyatso, something like that. So
I would call very, at least by the world's rules, from what I understand, extremely rare galactic events that, like, had he woken up a few months, or let's say a year later, he would have lost, essentially. Like, the Fire Nation would have
Buffy did have
taken over completely because of Sozin's Comet. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, wow, it's really convenient timing that he managed to wake up before what they establish is going to be their only chance to take out the Fire Nation during the Black Sun, and before Sozin's Comet fully arrived, despite being asleep for 100 years. Hello and welcome, sir. How you doing, Satan?
Idiot.
How's life?
Idiot.
Oh, war.
Come on, Roku.
That aspect of a kid, and
which is fine.
He said it's fine. It's just a minor point about the introduction there.
Within the next few months, if my timeline's correct, he is able to.
Okay, let's see this hot take here. Someone's got some comments here.
And it's like, man, Roku could just sort of, because they made like a huge deal out of it, but then it just sort of seems that he could just show up where he wants to, when he wants to, and I'm just like, man, why isn't he like teaching Aang? Why isn't he tutoring him on loads of stuff? Because it was incredibly important information that he got out of Roku when he meets him in season 1. And I just figured that Roku could tell him all kinds of things. Because obviously, I think it's season 3, Roku gives him the full history on him and Sozin. And I guess to teach Aang about just how a friendship can go to shit, kind of how it can start a war, that sort of thing. And I was just like, man, like the amount of knowledge Roku has, and for some reason, like they established that it's this well that is impossibly hard to actually tap, but then simultaneously he just shows up whenever he kind of needs.
Sorry about that.
No problemo.
Oh, okay, yeah. He said literature devil popped out, so this is an edit for convenience because he dropped out of the call for some reason. And that Roku point was completely retarded, in my personal opinion. Roku is the Avatar. He has the knowledge. There is a very you need to learn from a master. And the time with Roku is sort of like a weird sort of a vision thing. So learning things through a vision seems a little bit weird and from yourself. And it also goes against the sort of Eastern philosophy of having a master, which Avatar, The Last Airbender, he's on a journey to find people to teach, ends up learning water and earth from two of his companions. And that's half the journey there. And saying Roku should have taught him is just completely ridiculous.
Did you hear what I? What was the last thing you heard me say?
Oh yeah, you're talking about how Roku just came out of
Mauler
nowhere and
wanted to
actually
avoid that
convinced Zhong to train Aang.
Yeah, he also pops up in the ocean, and he pops up on that lion turtle just for the finale, and he pops up on his own hometown islandy thing to tell Aang stuff, and so basically, like, I think in season 1 they were like, this is a huge deal, and then they were like kind of wanting him to sort of come in where they needed him to in different areas, and so it just got me to the point where I was like, man, if Roku can do this, he needs to just teach Aang a shit ton of stuff. Come on, Roku, get in there to be his firebender teacher.
Yeah, just train him up. I mean, what is he just being lazy? Just lazy Roku.
Lazy Roku.
Literature Devils isn't giving any pushback to
But
that.
I think the Zhong thing, I'm not really sure what's going on, but it's been showing that there's a connection between Zhong and Iroh, and there is if you remember from the first season, I don't know because this is kind of obscure almost, but remember that there's an episode where Iroh gets captured, and in the abridged series of Avatar, it's called he was having his naked Iroh time, and he got captured by Earthbenders.
Abridged series,
and there's that's the same episode where Aang goes into the spirit world, and so Iroh. Well,
I think there's an
so
one.
Aang he climbs on Roku's spirit dragon thing, and he goes soaring through the air in the spirit world. No one can see him except for Iroh. Iroh can see him, and Iroh is this. Whoa! There's a big dragon going over my head in the spirit realm, and everyone, all the Earthbenders, like, what's going on? Why are you freaking out? He's like, oh, no reason. And but thing is, Iroh can see spirits, and he's part of that. He's an old man, wise old man, part of that White Lotus
for sure. I think
organization thing.
I'm actually on board with the idea that Aang could probably speak to Roku in the spirit world or whatever. It's just weird to me that like they took so much time to say that it has to be the winter solstice light shining on his statue in the secret room in the fire temple. Like, clearly all of that's not necessary. Like, we can talk to it other places.
Of course, the deck.
Here's what I'm getting at. I mean, the Iroh he can see spirits. So Zhong, he being also a wizened old man and part of the White Lotus Society or organization or whatever.
Yeah,
it would make sense that they share similar techniques. That's what being as part of society might be, to share wisdom, especially a society of old men like that. So maybe Zhong can also see spirits, but that might explain why Zhong could see Roku. Now back to Aang and him being able to see Roku outside of that temple thingy, is that when the winter solstice is approaching, Aang was a novice. He was basically just Aang who had some natural talent in bending other elements and able to tap into the power of the Avatar accidentally. So he was brand new. He was just told he was the Avatar before he was frozen,
and he wasn't taught how to communicate. There was a whole trip to the air temple where he was trying to figure out how to communicate with Roku. And it wasn't until he accidentally got trapped into spirit realm and Roku's companion came and found him in the spirit world and taught and basically guided him to where he could talk to his last incarnation. And the whole reincarnation thing probably fucks with a lot of people's heads. There's a lot of Eastern things that were integrated into Avatar: The Last Airbender. You can probably criticize them for some concepts of how they pulled it off. I don't think I would judge it that harshly on those sort of lines there. So here is the one where this comment, are you freaking kidding me?
Star let Jet die.
Okay, yeah.
Big, gigantic animals is not against the law. It's against the law here. Why wouldn't it be against the law and like fascist bossing say.
Um,
Nothing happens though. Nothing. It's just fine. It's just fine.
so this one's
But
a
it's
little
enjoyable.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's an anthology. I thought to myself like,
Yeah.
he didn't need to do that. You could have just find a different way. Get those animals out there. You got loads of options. It's fine. So if you remember, we're told that in the Avatar state, Aang is like hyper vulnerable. He's at his most vulnerable. He's like a glass cannon. He's most powerful, but also most vulnerable. The implication being that if he was like, I guess, punched really hard.
He's even messing this up. He's not very vulnerable. If he dies in the Avatar state, that means bad consequences for the world. I don't know where they say he's vulnerable in the Avatar state. Reference, please.
It might
He's just
kill him instead of just.
I think a lot of this comes down to both these guys just misremembering the show. I freshly watched it, so that's why I know.
Hurting him, that sort of thing. And that's why the stakes are like at their highest when we find out that it'll destroy the Avatar cycle too. And so when he's zapped by lightning in his back, I think the audience is supposed to feel like, holy shit, is it all over? Like that sort of moment. And then Katara is able to heal him because she has the Healy juice that was established season was that season 1 or 2? I can't. I think it was season
She
1.
had some special, very special healing water she had.
Right.
Something like that.
Which, if that was the only thing, I'd be like, okay,
That's not incorrect. I mean, they do get the water that's probably tuned to healing for Katara. Okay, but she learned to heal of her own ability. And maybe the water super juiced it or designed to accentuate, but they're not even getting this much right about that. And does she even have that water in that scene? She sort of drank the water in her pouch while they were in the desert. So I don't even think she has that special water, or at least not a lot of it. So this seems like a objectively wrong thing according to the series that both of them are getting wrong because neither one paid that much attention or the ramifications of them being in the desert before this scene happened. It would have been her natural ability to heal, not special water as Mauler stated it here.
Fine. It's kind of like you got to have your cake and eat it. You got to show the audience the worst possible thing ever, him getting killed in the Avatar state, and you got to have him survive. You're like, all right, but that's not my issue. Katara let Jet die. She has
I mean, forget that guy.
she
Let him die. Who
She
cares?
has like super Healy juice that could bring people back when they've apparently because Ag was almost essentially deceased while he's on Appa, while Jet was like, I'll be okay. And then Toph is like, he's not going to be okay. That's like something I really liked, by the way, was Toph could detect he was lying when he said that. I thought it was good. Katara is like, she's like, I don't know if she's.
How would Jet know if he was going to die or not? And you're assuming that somehow Katara, when she inspected it from the scene, I'm assuming he has damage to his internal organs, bleeding within, and she does not think she can heal it. And she did not leave him to die. His friends, the friends that came with him, said they would take care of him. He's not going to be okay. Is it even established that he dies? Does anyone mention that? Could have died. Don't know.
Tearing up or anything, but she's really upset because she does her standard water bending, and she's like, I don't think she's going to be able to save him. And I was like, uses the super juice. And I thought to myself, oh, super juice probably can't save someone if they've received mortal damage. And then I was like, oh no, it can. That's like its point, is that it does a super heal. I was like, oh.
I just thought she didn't want to.
Oh.
I just thought, I mean, she might have liked Jet or whatever. There were enemies at one time.
He was doing hero stuff at that point, right?
Yeah, he was saving them. He was saving them.
He also had a possibility of being brainwashed again because he was brainwashed and blah, blah, blah. This is a subjective thing, and I don't even know why he brings it up. She didn't think she could help. maybe the friends could help. He definitely needs some help, and they needed to get out of there for a couple of different reasons. You can critique it later for them going back after not wanting to see the king, but that's a different point altogether that probably doesn't get brought up in this little discussion here. And this guy, Chet's companion, told them to leave. The point made me mad. I can understand. Doesn't make me mad. It's just really stupid from Mauler here. And let's see
Didn't,
here.
I think.
So what bothered me is when she and Zuko are going to hunt down the person who killed her mum, and they have a theory on who it is, and she just runs straight into bloodbending him, right? And you could be like, "Oh, it's motivated by the fact that she thinks that person killed her mum." It's like, okay. When they
She's really
find out he's not, she's like, "That's not the guy." She just like drops him and moves on, and I was like, "Damn." I would have thought she would be like, taken aback by the fact that she's just committed to what she considers to be a really horrible act on an, quote unquote innocent person. He didn't kill her mother. He's just a guy.
I'm wondering if that comment about Avatar: The Last Airbender greater than Buffy, because that seems like, sorry, that comment might be hitting me a little bit too hard because Willow sort of turned to the dark side because Tara got killed was even more ridiculous than freaking this instance here with what he's nitpicking. Maybe Mauler would do it. He hasn't gone over Buffy or Angel. Conveniently, Mauler typically doesn't cover a lot of things that he says is good and wants to herald it as top tier writing. It's like he's not confident in making a defense for like what I call Avengers. Yeah, I know it's Captain America Civil War, but I call it Avengers Civil War because it's everyone. Why is Captain America singled out in that? Seems so, selfish. Maybe they wanted to make it a Captain America movie. But yeah, this blood bending thing.
And she seems to have a huge issue with doing it to just people
Some
in
serious
general.
weak sauce here.
And so I was like disappointed she wasn't like shocked at herself in any way. She's just like, all right, moving on. It's like, oh.
Yeah, I think she was really angry at herself for being that angry. If I remember correctly. She was it was just,
well, she has
when
sort
she
of
got
a
when she
moment
got
at the
over it.
end of the episode, but at that point in the episode, it's like I just think something's missing there.
Oh, he thinks something's missing. Can you
It
name
might,
it?
might be a little flaw in the writing.
It's a
'cause,
flaw.
They
You
focused
can't
so much
figure
on
out
her being
what's
angry,
missing.
and it was played off as if she was doing the wrong thing. I think Aang was like,
I
he said something
swear.
along the lines of,
This
"Don't
is
do
not
this."
top
He didn't
tier
want Katara to
debating.
do that. Of course, Zuko being, I guess, Zuko being at that time the Lancer, he's taking the place as the Lancer in the little band. He's the opposite of Aang, so he's the more aggressor. He's willing to kill. He's willing to do everything that Aang isn't willing to do. And so it was Aang was the angel, Zuko was the devil in that scenario, and Katara.
Wow. Literature Devil is really getting into sort of the metaphysics, the sort of the theme sort of discussion here.
Went with Zuko. So it was kind of played off as something she was doing that was wrong. And they dressed up as ninja and all that good stuff. And so they're sneaking, they're not being honorable anymore. They're no longer the honorable heroes once they start doing that. So it was played off as this is bad Katara. That's why the tension was so high.
And I like the whole like sort of dabbling, and then but I think like the way you sort of do it, it's like the true character stays on point, as in they can only go so far before they're like, yeah, this isn't me. And it affects her so dramatically, bloodbending to save her friends, and she doesn't do anything horrible to the old lady. She just stops her, right? She doesn't like.
Yeah.
Which is why if I was a friend of his, I'd be like, yeah, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Look, I know it seems horrible, but what you just did is like really good. So you're all good in the book. But she's obviously crying, and I found that to be quite like an impactful part of her. But then that scene later, what I would be looking for is that once she drops the guy and realizes it's not the right guy, she should like have a moment and then carry on. But she's just like moving on, and I was just like, oh man.
Okay, this is why the revenge kick. The comment, the revenge kick, revenge quest. She's angry, given into her angry. Point of the episode. And Mauler's in her prime, old woman. I guess the question of why Katara beat Haman because she's in her prime and Haman is an old woman. Hama is currently bloodbending both Suka and Aang in the scene. Her hands are occupied. Hammond taught her how. The whole point of taking Katara to the woods is because she wanted to teach bloodbending. There's also another reason why Haman doesn't fight back against Katara. Haman got what she wanted. Katara became a bloodbender to protect her friends. Hema is content knowing the knowledge is passed on. That is all clearly shown in the episode. It's sort of like the dark side, the dark talent. It is very Eastern. The pupil sometimes for some of these blood, very vicious things, like in Kenshin, typically they kill their master in their final test and move on. Only reason Kenshin master, I forget his name now, survived is because Kenshin used the reverse blade sword. And that was good there. But that is typically with the trope. I think a lot of this comes down to not understanding a lot of the conventions of anime or even Eastern movies typically. And let's get to the last part.
Here at Noble
That's
Night
mentioned
Games,
here. Overall, yeah, I think Mauler just doesn't have the repertoire or the knowledge set to really judge, to understand. He just is way too biased and way too stuck. It's like he doesn't have enough interest to go through. I personally think critics should be able to suck it up. If you have an opinion and you want to defend that opinion, you should go about defending and rewatching if that's what it takes.
Right. And that his shock lasted so long, and with giving Aang enough time to spirit bend him, which will kills his ego. I mean, I'm pretty sure he might want to commit suicide at that
The
point.
ego will be dead after that. Yes.
Yeah. So I could. That's how I saw why he didn't do that, because of course, if he was in his right mind and all powerful, and they just snuck in with Toph, and she just zapped some cuffs on him at his height of his power, he just break these easily. I can defeat anybody. But at that point specifically, he was defeated and his ego was shattered. And that is why I think he kind of held those cuffs in place. He didn't really do anything, couldn't fight back because his spirit was gone, metaphorically, and then his spirit was literally gone or bent soon after.
Do you remember when Appa is captured?
Yes, he was captured by wasn't he captured by Zuko or somebody?
It's like a Fire Nation circus thing.
Yeah, that's it.
And so the problem with Appa
Aang was really
is
angry.
he's like, I'm gonna tame you because you're a crazy dude. And every time he tries to like prevent Appa from getting food, Appa finds like this like he like airbends food.
Okay. As I said, there is plenty of critiques. I would have to go through them to see if I agree with them. That's sort of not the point of this in reality. I want to go over a little bit of this and see if I see with this comments, which seem rather solid, could even go a little bit further, but last line, I'm sort of irritated. Mauler thought the fans of the show couldn't handle someone tearing into their sacred cow. That's not the main problem with this debate. The problem is this isn't a good debate. I agree. I like Literature Devil, but I don't feel he was prepared. He concedes to almost every point immediately or plays it off with a joke. Almost every point Mauler brings up has an answer in the source material. It's fine if Mauler didn't like it personally. I agree. It's a certain style. It was made for kids originally, and the fact that it picked up on other people shows the quality of it. Personally, I can't even say I'm that big of a fan. Definitely a good, solid show, objectively. And anyone in their credit could admit that maybe it just had a lot of points, but again, but his points aren't nearly enough to claim Avatar: The Last Airbender is objectively meteoric. Or however you say that. Yeah, there is plenty of comments. Just a reminder, got ratio. This is definitely EFAP's worst failing. Non-Western are too, yeah, it has a sort of a spirit realm, and it's sort of hard to sort of get over that for a lot of people. I mean, even in Star Wars, they have the Force, which has some element of destiny to it, and there's certain levels you can take it to. So it just makes me wonder about the sort of a perspective Mauler has. I don't think he should have went after this. I'm thinking because Rags had his off the cuff comment. This was after Wolf sort of left EFAP pretty much for good. Wolf left December of 2019. And I really think that Mauler was getting a little bit vicious at this point. Well, not vicious, defensive towards his friends after that happened and his friend left. And as I pointed out, Wolf came back for this discussion, weirdly enough. And I find that a bit interesting. But let's see. I'm too lazy to actually go look into it. But League of Entertainment will have it here. Sort of Mauler's response. I'm pretty sure that they will go over it. Let's see some of this.
If he was like screaming in pain, she'd probably help him.
Look, here's the thing.
Fine. Listen,
I'm gonna be honest with you.
Why do they go with these bits?
Oh boy, this one line stupidity honestly blows your credit.
The sort of memes they insert into these videos just make it hard to take these things serious. But the British potato, this person recommended British potato video, that buddy, in the comments, and I said, haha, that's why I mentioned him in the beginning of this stream.
Ability out of the water at this point, if it didn't already. Katara would not save Ozai, period. Sure, she is nice and compassionate and all that, but just because she's nice, she's not this angelic heavenly creature like Rey, who is nice to everyone all the time. She has moments where she gets irrational, angry, and at one point even threatens Zuko's life if he ever does anything to hurt Aang.
You make one step backward, one slip up, give me one reason to think you might hurt Aang, and you won't have to worry about your destiny anymore, because I'll make sure your destiny ends right then and there. Permanently.
You seem to have a flenderized version of her in your head, which goes to show you don't have it.
Yeah, I think he's reading too much into this. He expects he definitely a bit masochistic. So misogynist streak, as Paul pointed out. I don't think that's true, but he does probably have certain expectations about certain female characters, especially since she's a healer. Maybe too many video games in that regards that she'll heal. There's also honor-bound system that sort of plays throughout. There is a lot of Eastern philosophy. Like I could completely understand about Avatar: The Last Airbender. How the hell does Toph, if I'm saying that name right, the blind airbender, become a master without a master herself? Because it's clear whoever's teaching her at her parents' behalf does not teach her anything to the advance. And I personally, I could see why people would criticize how she's that proficient at that young, but I see it as sort of like she had to learn everything through earthbending for her sight to work. But I can see a criticism that she never was taught by anyone properly her earthbending. I see that as a legitimate earth criticism, but the blind swordsman, daredevil sort of esque element, I will give a sort of understanding under the framework that Avatar: The Last Airbender. But I could understand if someone else criticized it for it. I would say that's a legitimate criticism that would be fine. Not much in what Mauler tends to put out there works.
Understanding of the characters, which is going to be apparent throughout this entire video. As for Jet, she didn't just let him die. He instinct took the choice out of her hands and lied to her that it would be alright. Even Longshot, the one guy who hasn't spoken a word in all of his appearances, says it's okay.
There's no time. Just go. We'll take care of him. He's our leader.
Let's never mind the fact that she tried to heal him to begin with, but she also needs the spirit water for dire situations where Aang to be fatally injured.
Again, even he misunderstands. I mean, and maybe it's just a flaw. Is this the spirit water? I thought that was her natural ability without the special water she got from the water tribe. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this everyone else is wrong on this. But yeah, that water I think would have been used in the desert to save themselves from dehydrating. But I could be wrong on that. Would have to take a fine tooth comb to really figure that out.
Which does happen. If
You know, quote unquote innocent person. He didn't kill her mother. He's just a guy. And she seems to have a huge issue with doing it to just people in general. And so I was like disappointed she wasn't.
to have a deep-seated hatred for the Fire Nation, especially since they killed her mother. And her personal mission in this episode is to track down the guy who killed her. In this whole episode, especially this scene, it's portrayed as unusual for Katara, which makes this scene very impactful because she's using the same technique that she was crying over in the episode that she used it in. And it causes the audience to question whether or not she's willing to kill the guy that's truly responsible for the murder. And when she does reach the guy, she almost kills him, but even then, she doesn't forgive him. So she does have the capacity for hatred and anger. And it doesn't matter if you personally didn't like how it was handled. It's fine if you don't, but you're saying this is a flaw with the writing, like what LD unbelievably.
I think he's saying just little elements. He's not making that big of a state. I will defend Mauler here. I don't think he's saying it's that big of a. He personally, I think they mentioned it's 1,000 little paper cuts, but in the subjective thing, let's see what he put. He put some comments in here. I'm doing this all blind, and I'm even sort of not really liking this video defending. I mean, it brings up legitimate. People say I have a mush mouth. This guy's a little bit worse, I think.
You're not the only one who draws power from the moon. My bending is more powerful than yours, Hama. Your technique is useless on me.
And the balance levels of this. Okay.
My first video, I said that since Hama is much older, that should mean she is weaker due to her elderly age. But a good comment I got is that Katara has far more fighting experience than what Hama does, considering Hama would most likely have to hide her bending from the other Fire Nation locals, while Katara has been fighting almost non-stop for most of the show. So as her training from Paul Ku, who is a legendary waterbending master, as well as a member of the White Lotus. All which are good points. And
yeah, absolutely good points. It doesn't really address what Mauler's saying.
First idea I have would be something like Iroh looking suspicious. We'll establish that he would know full well that something's up. This is weird. Because I'm you've done, and then you can have our characters realize, like, impressed. Like, this is someone's up. I think there's a lot of ways you can write it. A lot of good ways, because this is a really significant moment. This is going to change their path throughout the whole show, and I'm just going to show you what happens. Here it is.
Guard the princess! Raise the anchors! We're taking the prisoners home!
The part that gets me is his face. He's like, "Oh, Drews, what have I done?" Maybe I can show.
He just messed up under Azula's command. He's dead.
Well, of course, he's
just
the captain. Like, it blows my mind he could possibly make this horrendous of a mistake. It's like the whole point is that they don't discover that they're prisoners. Like, he's like, "We're taking the prisoners home." What a strange thing you need to say, you know?
Yeah, it is odd, but maybe he's not used to lying to people. Okay? You don't know how much training he has. Slip ups like this is understandable when you're talking to the troops. If everyone his troops' understanding is that they're deceiving them to take them capture as prisoners, make complete sense why the cognitive dissonance might get to him. I mean, it's fair enough. He's laughing about it. I think that was the main point of it.
Killing you and worry more about me, who's still mulling it over.
She's literally threatening to kill him if they don't fall in line with her plans or way of thinking. As we're shown in this episode, Azula is a perfectionist. It's both her greatest strength and weakness. So I'm being threatened by a member claiming that I said Mauler didn't watch this episode, that he's just trying to say he would prefer Avatar state with.
Man, that intro is kind of funny now. It's like, He's, you know, his airbending is great, but he needs to trade all the other things to defeat Ozai. It's just like, does he though? Like, it doesn't really. Yeah.
A very low IQ person.
Wow.
Again, I don't know why people do this in videos like this. Put in a political, well, I guess it's not technically political, but maybe he'll be seen as a freight wing dog whistle, but maybe he's fine with it. Who knows? Who cares?
You really did not pay attention to the show, did you? They literally spent the entire first episode of season 2 to explain why. Aang doesn't know how to get a grip on the Avatar state. Outside the 2 instances of him being possessed by spirits in season 1, he's only able to enter the Avatar state with extreme cases of fear, anger, and grief. The general tries to exploit this, but it only leads to terrible repercussions. Aang, for like 2/3 of the whole series, doesn't even know how to trigger it at will. It's only through the help of the guru during the finale he'll prefer it at the Wow.
This whole like, he just needs.
They're just gods.
And so
right from the get-go.
I'm going back to see if this is actually addressing what Mauler's saying. Sometimes there's a cognitive dissonance among fanboys. I'm going to rewatch, make sure this is what Mauler's point is.
You know, the Godzilla creature at the end of season 1, it'd be like, okay, so his training isn't why he can do that. It's because he's accessing the Avatar state, combining with the koi fish, the power spirits that all.
Okay, you might actually be right here. It is sort of the Avatar state mixed with the anger of the koi fish.
All that thing. And so I've got that in my head, and I'm like, so he's training earthbending, airbending, firebending, and waterbending because he needs them to defeat Ozai. Okay.
Well, at this point, he only has a sort of elementary idea of water and air. Earth and fire, I think at this point in the story, is not in his arsenal, and he has trouble with earth bending in season 2.
Okay. Why wouldn't he just need to get a grip on the Avatar state? What's the relevance of all those other things when the Avatar state is what annihilates Ozai? Like, he has all the elements floating around him. He's just this ball of like fuck you energy, and just like destroys it.
Seems like Mauler here doesn't even understand the Avatar state, and especially not in this moment. Yeah, I guess in the Avatar state, he could do all the sort of abilities, all about it, but that's not what happened. I can see why he's saying he's not paying attention, but I can understand why Mauler's confused here.
Like, what I guess I wanted to see was like he uses the water whip to counter a move from Ozai. He uses like the all the different moves that he's sort of been taught over the season and defeats in that way, like no Avatar state, especially because what I liked was they were kind of building this whole like
Yeah, and he's missing the point here. It's not about just beating one person. It's about taking on this whole freaking army.
Avatar state is what is like a final resort. And he doesn't even like it because it's not him anymore. It's more a collective of people.
Not
quite. So like if he can, I think like a climax would have been really awesome to have him almost go into the Avatar state, pull back, and then beat Ozai his own way without actually having to use it. But instead,
that'd be interesting. Yeah,
he goes full Avatar state.
Oh, for fucking Christ, hell, literature devil! Don't indulge this. Obviously, you haven't rewatched this in a while. No, it would not. It would not work. The Avatar state wouldn't have done well. Maybe it could have done it, but in reality, it wouldn't have fit the state as they bring up. And you're even misunderstanding the sort of connection it seems like. But hear you out before I get back to the other man.
And sort of destroys him with the incredible powers that are all being provided from, thousands of years of history from all these other avatars. Like, yeah, that's fine with me. I was just like, at this point, like, man, that intro is kind of funny now. It's like,
yeah, but also it's completely understandable that he would have to get used to it. Even though Avatar states nothing like Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan has a limit at the upper echelon. You have to get used to it, and you're damaged afterwards. A lot of power is Kaioken of DBZ. Kaioken is a better example. It increases strength after pushes the muscles to the maximum. You have to train that muscle, and even even proposed this? How would have it helped him get through this whole army? And it definitely works much better within the scene that he sort of uses his avatar spiritual connection to morph into the monster along with the rage of the ocean after the moon gets killed by the one person.
He's, you know, his airbending is great, but he needs to trade all the other things to defeat Ozai. It's just like, does he though? It doesn't really. Yeah.
Okay.
Show, which he seems to be forgetting, which is why he made the point of why couldn't Aang just use the Avatar state from the very beginning to win the whole show. As for your point on the final fight against
Yeah, Mauler's putting some headcanon in that really actually would make the show worse into this. So I don't see why he needs to go on. Mauler's just creating some sort of headcanon or rewrite that actually would make the show worse.
Ozai, Aang does in fact use what he's learned throughout the show, such as the lightning deflection Zuko taught him, the rock armor Toph uses, as well as her seismic vision, as well as several bits of water bending as well. There are multiple other examples as well that I haven't even listed, and Aang is up against Ozai, one of the most powerful firebenders as is. He's also juiced up from Sozin's Comet. That is not an easy opponent to beat, so there's nothing wrong with using the Avatar state in this fight. Some say that Aang using the Avatar state in the fight diminishes his journey of learning the elements because he's relying on the knowledge.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood. I thought they were talking about the Koi, and he's bringing up the final Ozark thing. Okay, yeah, a little weak. You would use a tool like that.
Of past avatars instead of his own, but I disagree. Aang still needed the knowledge of using the elements or to bend them, and he still uses what he.
It makes the Avatar actually a relevant tool, even if he has access to all four of the elements. Yeah, as Skids, whatever here, talking about the guy is supercharged off of the comet in that scene that he showed. Seems a little weird when I don't think that's what Mauler was talking about, but maybe I missed something. But definitely I heard that was a criticism and bringing up the Fire Lord fight.
He's learned during that part of the fight as well.
Fucking moving the whole show, and Aang actually uses some of Toph's hand movements for it too. She's the only person we've ever seen use these motions, so that's a cool detail too.
He is still using this knowledge to win the day.
Good clip to throw in. Finally, a good clip in this video. I mean, I'm not saying this is a bad video. I just question some of the things, and it's just countering Mauler's point in a weird way sometimes, and I don't agree with, but respect just Skids for this, even though he probably hates me because he's of one of that crew.
Which is pretty good writing and makes his journey feel worth it.
He killed the moon.
Yes. So he found out about the.
Yeah, the only problem is Skids isn't. I mean, sorry, Skids is bringing up a point that Mauler might have alluded to, but didn't even bring up. Maybe that was his counter, bringing up that fight later. Still talking about the fight in the end of season 1.
Coming eclipse and what eclipses do to the Fire Nation when he was in the library in the desert. And he burnt all of the information because it reveals the Fire Nation's weakness. He doesn't want anyone finding it. It's like, yep, that makes sense. It's surprising that very few firebenders seem to even be, like, as far as I'm aware, it's literally just him and the people he has told, which is very few people. You'd think, because this is going to get complicated, right? Try and stay with me because I even confuse myself. When they discover, Sokka and Aang discover that the eclipse is the key to taking the Fire Nation's power away, they need to find a day when that happens again, right? They need to so they can prepare for war. And Sokka says, like, we can't check every day. That's ridiculous. And he's like, no. We need to check from today up to Sozin's Comet because that's the only time frame we can use because Sozin's Comet is game over. So we got to get it in that time zone. And so they search those days while the building is filling with sand because Toph is trying to prevent it from going further into the ground. But obviously the owl has opened up, I guess, windows and stuff to let sand from the outside pour in. But it just this is a nitpick. It just stops pouring when they start searching all of the days. I was just like, this is fine.
Yeah, nitpick. He even admits it's a nitpick, and this is some of the problem. You should just be like, okay,
You should
nitpick.
know about it. That happens too frequently. That's honestly not that big of a deal. Is it convenient?
Yeah, okay. Problem in this video. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, Smaller said it's a nitpick. Oh, God. I swear. Even when I agree with some videos, they still frustrate me.
And behind why a character makes a decision, in this case why AIM chose to turn his back.
Yeah.
Surprised that got like chains on his ankles, I guess. And I was like, oh, that must prevent him from flying, because obviously if he could fly, he'd just escape. But then I realized that his act requires him to fly through fire hoops. And I was like, oh, so why doesn't he just escape? Again, I hope I don't get flagged for copyright with this one. So the thing is like, oh, maybe it's that dude with the fire whip. And it's like, well, I mean, Appa could just fly out right now. But instead he's like sort of playing along for a moment. And then he gets singed and he's like, ow, that hurts. And then this happens. I love
He slaps
that.
it down.
It just looks so funny. For those who can't see it, Appa hits a hoop and the hoop just bonks the dude right on the head.
I
And,
am
yeah, so
just
I'm
more
confused,
looking
like,
at
Appa
this
just
because
fly
I'm
away, right?
curious.
And then I was thinking to myself, like, oh, there's gonna be a reason why he can't, I guess. And
Yes, but it's not necessary. See, Mauler projected it on the chains. He's tricking himself to thinking it's the chains. But there's probably another reason. Sort of tricking himself thinking the chains, and when it's not the chains, he's probably just ruining this sort of experience for himself in this moment.
he ends up like just booting this dude. You can check this out.
Appa's awesome.
Appa is awesome. And then he just flies out. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, Appa's a cool dude. They're feeding him. He finally reached his limit and like, I'm out of here, okay? Probably should have been like that earlier, but you know what? I don't see this as a problem. I mean, this is probably another one of these nitpicks that Mauler ran into his own little concept of how the scene should have went and why it's a problem. But Appa's still an animal, maybe more intelligent than most animals, but he's given some sort of human level of intelligence. He's just instinctually running away. And he was up into a cage. This was the first time he could have done it. And he maybe even did it off screen, tried to do it, but who knows? He knocked the guy and maybe people backed off and he managed to make his escape there. This I can understand, but it's really not a big deal.
What an awful.
Don't need to be here anymore.
Why? It was like, how stupid does that circus owner have to be? I don't know.
Nice to see you're taking stuff out of context. Like he basically admitted to.
Oh God, why? Okay, why is he taking it out of context? Okay, he could just be wrong.
In your Reddit thread, in a prior scene, the circus keeper literally threatened Appa with fire if he tried to escape. And as we see in this episode, Appa is scared of fire, which makes sense because he's constantly being shot at throughout the entire series.
Again, how is this out of context? Okay, I agree with your point that Mauler should have brought up, but why does everyone, I took it out of context? No, Mauler did not think that was significant to the scene he was actually talking about. Swear. That's why I can't watch YouTube videos, even if I agree with people for like 90%. Sometimes some of the shit they say just annoys the hell out of me. Like, why are you saying this out of context? Okay, he didn't think he needed the context for it. I don't even think you can say Appa's scared of fire. Everyone's scared of fire, okay?
And even Bartolo on a couple of occasions. And Appa is an animal. And animals in circuses, or just captivity in general, often threatened and even abused in order for them to keep in line.
This is a new animal. I agree with the general point here, okay? I think he's overselling it because Appa had a master, friendly with humans, but not used to being contained, will probably chill out as long as things are good enough and probably bail or try to bail as soon as it can. Not much of a memory. It happened in the moment, blah, blah, blah.
Do what the keepers want. Appa only finds the courage to escape when he sees the boy that was nice to him earlier since he reminded him of Aang. You even show this in your own footage, but you completely missed it. Wow.
lucky that someone who knows you very well happened upon you in this area. Someone who cares about you to the point that they pluck those things out of him, they feed him, they rest him up, and he's back to full health. And I was just like, wow. And then fucking Azula and the two girls just show up because apparently they were keeping an eye on the fur and they saw some and they just went to this place. I was blown away. I was just like, what? Why is everyone just showing up?
It might be convenient, sure, but it makes sense. Azula followed the trail of fur like what she did earlier in the season. It says Appa just escaped a Fire Nation circus, and Tyler used to be at the circus.
Yeah, everyone's sort of very cognizant of Appa, and maybe they don't show it too clearly, but you can use a bit of adductive reasoning. Anyone who knows about Appa would probably see signs of him. They established the fur was found. Not that big of an issue,
We
but
could have used that as a lead. And the Kyoshi warriors were already aware that
and it was a long time period. Appa went through a lot of stuff. Better question is, why was someone knowing about Appa didn't find Appa sooner? Appa.
Appa is missing. They are part of the Earth Kingdom military, so it makes sense for them to be there as well. As for them meeting up at the same time, I'm saving that for the next convenience argument, since that's when I plan to show my hand. But I'll give you credit for the criticism.
Sure. I
One of the
hate
Warriors
the
not
performance of
noticing
this.
destruction from earlier. Even though that is pretty nitpicky, I'll give you props for that.
This
I'm
one's
not
a
going to
bit,
give him props for that. Why give him props?
Go up and this person just says, "I'm totally the waterbender. You have to kill me." I'd be like, So, do you mean
attack?
Yeah.
Warrior. She's a Kyoshi pro.
Okay, I'll stick out a little bit more.
Some
of these points, both Mauler's and the Skibs, not great overall, but that's fine. I agree with Skibs more than I do with Mauler, because Mauler's just going with his head up his ass, but Skibs is sort of like having these weird argumentation. But had this probably his most viewed, then he took it off for some reason and put it on a different channel. I have no fucking clue why that happened. That was weird.
I guess it's just, I think it's just traditional movie logic. You trapped in ice, you can live forever. It's just the matter of you getting thawed out. Because Captain America went through the same thing. He said young, he was frozen in ice.
Yeah, well,
they thaw him
because
out.
I probably levy the same criticism against the MCU for that one. It's kind of just like you don't in the same way, right? Because you can get away with that, quote unquote, but principally you shouldn't get away with it. And what I mean by that,
And everyone assumes this is ice. Let's see if Skibs assumes this is ice. Okay. There's nothing that says this is ice. There's definitely ice on the outside of the cocoon that kept him safe, but was it ice? Unknown.
that is like we have a character who was ejected into space and he's floating around out there, and then someone grabs him one day and brings him back down, and he's a character again. Be like, how the hell did he survive? You're like, you know.
This is what's called suspended animation. Similar to the cryopods in sci-fi such as Halo or Aliens, where all bodily functions are shut down, but the subject in question isn't dead and can still survive and not even age for several years. Now, how is this possible in Allo where it's fantasy and not sci-fi? Well, there have been reported cases of suspended animation happening in real life multiple times. It's been used as a way to treat patients in order to give them a long enough window to be performed on to save their lives. It's even possible for it to happen in nature as well. And Aang used airbending powered by the Avatar state to freeze him and Appa almost instantly, as opposed to the case of Zuko, where he was in the North Tundra well below freezing temperatures, which will slowly led to hypothermia, frostbite, and death due to other cold-related injuries. As for Captain America, he is a super soldier with far greater capabilities, such as enhanced durability, that would have easily killed most regular humans, and his bodily functions are enhanced as well, such as his metabolism.
Okay, lame. So this is just a straight counter to this, not about Muller's sort of spurg out afterwards. Maybe he brings it in the beginning. It's not something I would really agree with. Let's see what this end part is about. Some more comments
It's only
here.
authorial intent if you're using the intentions of the creators to defend something that isn't well communicated, or something's poorly done to defend the product. Like if I said that the reason the drill is still there is because the writers need the characters to convince
the
our
drill.
team that the war is real,
That would be hard to do, move, and probably they would have wanted to plug the hole with it until they could have fixed it around it. Perfectly reasonable why they kept the drill there until they could have probably fixed the wall so invaders couldn't come in, but it's not really explained why it's kept there.
that would apply to that case, but I didn't do anything of the sort. Not now. Showing my comments responding to him, I have a
Okay, yeah. Let's see what he said.
far greater respect
Yep, Skids, the lonely Spartan.
for this comment than this guy because he doesn't try shielding Mauler with some opinionated bullshit and just try to respond to it how it was. And I think that's going to be the end of the video.
Yeah, I was really hoping.
Couple of times in his server, his opinion,
as
well as
look
him
up again.
trashing the fan base. This video will be remaking the first two since they're the ones that could.
Yeah, okay, this is a remake. Okay, maybe why he took the other one down out of criticism, blah, blah, blah.
Contain most of his points. I'm not going any further than that, but I think this should be thorough enough for most to be satisfied with it. Much like my Cosmot video, this video will be addressing some of the criticism I've gotten over the past 2 years since those videos have been out. Speaking of which, there is one I need to address right now because it needs attention first. One comment I got was that Mauler's EFAP was just a casual discourse with a friend, not a critique. That his suggestions are to just make the show more enjoyable for him. That's just his opinion.
That's a nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
Starting off with the fact that Mauler
Okay. Good use of that meme for once, not the Donald Trump one.
has never allowed anyone to use, in my opinion, to shield themselves from criticism. The same logic should apply to him naturally. Never in the preamble of his video did he ever once say that his criticisms were just opinions, nor does he ever say this throughout the rest of the video. In fact, he says something that suggests the opposite.
And obviously, I'm coming from the perspective that I would call the show subpar. Like, if I was to put on a 10 scale, it's like a 4. Which I know is very controversial. I'm like, oh,
That's something you're not supposed to say.
I'm calling the show subpar, a 4 out of 10. That sounds like a critique to me, just like any of his other EFAPs. Besides that, he takes pot shots at it multiple times in his server, despite the fact that he apparently doesn't care.
Yeah, there seems to be a common theme.
The show subpar, a 4 out of 10. That sounds like a critique to me, just like any of his other EFAPs. Besides that, he takes pot shots at it multiple times in his server, despite the fact that he apparently doesn't care. I'm not even going to respond to that. They hit the nail on the head in the comments. As for the show being more enjoyable for him, first off, his comments on the captain slipping up, the reason why Sicko has his coma at the time he has it, amongst other things, are factual statements, or more accurately, attempts at factual statements. Don't worry, we're getting to those in due time. If he wanted to just say he personally didn't enjoy the show, that's fine, as I said last time. But he is clearly attempting to make cogent points that people parrot. If he wanted to go the I just didn't like it crowd, he should have done something similar to what my friend said in one of his hot takes video.
Now, to start off my hot takes, I don't like Lord of the Rings all that much. They're not bad films at all. I just generally do not give a flying fuck about wizards and magic and dragons.
Oh, British Potato Fran. No wonder. Yeah, British Potato. Not a good critic. Why should have he done that? I don't care.
Shit, they just don't interest me at all. I've tried watching Lord of the Rings films at least 4 to 5 times, and every single time I fall asleep, and I just
can be refuted. Take a look at Maverick's video on Daredevil. Sure, you could say those guys in the podcast are just.
I also don't like this approach. I swear he's sort of facing this whole video with all this up front, when I really think he should have left it towards the end.
Having a casual
sort of creating an atmosphere to say this is bad. And I remember seeing this video at some point where he references Mauler's post. That's what I was really trying to be lazy because I can't seem to find Mauler's Reddit response. I guess it's not that important. Okay. But yeah, overall,
Enter the Spirit World. And
I have criticism for this, but I will agree Mauler's take on Avatar, it is their worst take. and British Potato take on Rags is just crappy. I agree. Rags was half baked with his Doom Eternal, but he probably would admit that himself. And it really wasn't a set in for that. And this is rather. See, okay, I covered this. This video, the comments, all that fun stuff to sort of create a baseline. You can watch any of this stuff yourself if you want. If you watch this video, there are problems with it. That's for my in bit. I wanted to mention this stupid data. I was going to do it at the beginning, but let me do it at the end. But yeah, this is rather weird. So he's still sort of defending the sort of position and not wanting to go after it afterwards. So that seems really weird and similar to the Terriers thing. And the fact that Wolf brought it up sort of out of pocket, that Mauler's criticism and was justified or even good, and Southpaw's sort of a video struck me very
Despite the things
weird to
people have
bring
been
it up
claiming.
here. And it's just making me, yeah, he goes on.
The show being criticized. So angry that you no longer want to watch the show with them because you're afraid you might change your mind. I know you're better than little bubble. You get better by asking yourself objectively, does this thing I like really hold up, or do I just want it to hold up? They asked me what I like about Hank. Honestly, just drew a big blank. And they showed me how many terrible things he does, and I thought of all the other terrible things he does in the following.
Just letting you notice, Southpaw for this watched the show with, Wolf here watched the show with Southpaw originally and thought it was a really good show. And now Mauler came in with Fringy and pointed all this stuff out to him. I guess the same thing happened in their watch through of, I really would want to hear ER, but apparently ER either didn't think it was that big of a deal or wasn't worth the trouble of really going after Mauler over. A lot of unknowns here. So I don't want to judge Mauler or anyone, except for, as I'll contest, Rags is asshole. Anyone who thinks he's a great critic, I have to laugh at him. He's on EFAP as sort of the heel. Hell, even a personal instance of Discord antics is I went into a Mischief server when I first went into Mischief server to maybe create some mischief. I noticed Rags was there. Later on, after those two went back and forth, I'm like, where's Rags? Mischief was like, oh yeah, I kicked him. He was being an asshole. I'm like, okay, fine. The argument they were having was non-material. It's just funny. Rags is asshole. I will attest to that. Taking him too seriously or putting any merit of him as of days back in the day, I think he was much better, and I think he's just gotten tired and just wants to play the heel. Talking about heels, Doomer Media seems after his last little combo, take this with a grain of salt, talked about addressing this with Mauler on a VC. He used the term gaslighting. I don't know if that's really it, but supposedly he said that Rags came in also. Mauler brought Rags in just to rag on him. I mean, maybe Doomer Media deserves that in your personal opinion, but I take all things in factor. Obviously, maybe Mauler just thought it wasn't worth it. Just go for the kill shot in Doomer Media's case, which not many people would blame him for.
Following episodes. And I seriously questioned what I ever liked about him in the first place, aside from immediately saying, A, looks like Lebowski and Franco, LMAO, kind of what happened with Ted. There's like no reason to hate him for any other reason than projecting what I didn't like about him from Breaking Bad onto a completely different character. And now that I'm put in the position of justifying the things that happen in the show, I have to ask myself a lot of questions I didn't ask before. And the show's looking progressively weaker. Like, why didn't anyone else run tests on that radioactive site just to double check? And how is Hank's sister the only one to notice the giveaway that means there's no radiation there?
Well, I'm pretty sure. Freaking Southpaw's going to go over this. So I agree with Southpaw's. Why didn't anyone else run test? Because that was, sorry, that hurts my head. That's a bad criticism, I think. It's just thinking about it at all angles, trying to break the story from that angle. When you try to dig too deep, why would even they need to get other people to test it later on. It just hurts my head.
At all. How did they sneak Brit back through the U.S. in the trunk when every car has to be checked at the border? Why did?
Yeah, like that. That's an undeniable, stupid, fringy take, and just Wolf is just giving up on criticism, maybe, and thinking critically. I don't blame him, but why is he sort of the ringer for Mauler and EFAP nowadays when these instances come up? Because it comes up in the sort of reaction to EFAP's attempt to criticize and just move on from Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I don't even think Avatar: The Last Airbender is a perfect show. It has a lot of flaws, but a lot of their criticisms, Mauler's in that debate, fall freaking flat when you look at what actually happens.
Kid, forgetting his name. Black cop guy, stop looking for Ted at the threat of seeing Brit take a shit. What's frustrating about the situation is that you've pointed out a lot of issues with a lot of sacred cows. But I think you're overlooking them in terriers and getting really angry in that recording at the idea of your show being criticized. So angry that you no longer want to watch the show with them because you're afraid you might.
See, this is an assumption by Wolf. Okay. Going through that, yeah, he's angry because he doesn't think the criticism holds up, and the sort of egging on the Discord culture, some of the stuff I've seen, I agree. It would feel like you're being gaslit. Like Doomer Media thought he was being gaslit. I hate that term because it's not a very precise term. And sometimes people can if you want to use that term, gaslight themselves or trick themselves, self-delusion. Say it's definitely either dumb or just a little bit delusional. You could just gaslight yourself. And this might have been the case. It seems like 2 cases we have. Doesn't create a pattern. 2 cases of Wolf being convinced a show he thought was actually good wasn't after talking to Mauler and other people. I guess it was Mauler and Fringy, this time with Terriers. And I guess it was just Mauler with an ER, and they'll watch together with them, which hasn't been released. Just interesting stuff to take account of. I'm not going to say anything. I joke about a hazing ritual, but let me not even get into that sort of joke. It's definitely a weird pattern that only happened twice, and I hope Mauler's learning, self-reflecting, even if he doesn't publicly talk about it, because that's the death sentence. Can understand why people would not want to talk about all this underground shit publicly, but still a problem, I think.
Might change your mind. I know you're better than that. You've made plenty of videos proving as much, and I know you're a smart guy with good things to say. Acknowledging the faults of a story can elevate the things that are truly good. I've grown a lot by seeing that some things I once liked aren't very good, and found new things that blew away the feelings I had for something like Avatar: The Last Airbender, like The Expanse, The Wheel of Time, The Dresden Files, The Dark Tower, Buffy and Angel, etc.
Yeah, I really should like Wolf. I still couldn't get into the Expanse books or the show Wheel of Time. Dresden Files, props to him. Dark Tower, hit or miss. The first one was good. The third one was really weird, and I can respect Angel a little bit and Buffy early on, but they have their ups and downs. By comparing all those are incredibly flawed if you really get into even the books. Rival. He's talking about an emotional thing that doesn't make, but does Mauler's criticism, he doesn't even say. He brings up Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I think even as someone who's not a big fan of it, still holds up as the piece of medium that it is.
They all gave me powerful emotional reactions that rival anything I got from Avatar: The Last Airbender. That doesn't make Avatar: The Last Airbender less important to me. Early development as a person. It's a piece of me, and one I value for pushing me towards the things I like now. Had a similar thing happen with music. Used to listen to tons of post-grunge rock, and it eventually led to the crazy heavier metal bands I listen to now. Unfortunately, it resulted in me not having as much fun with the old music I used to listen to, but that doesn't make the old music any less valuable to me.
Yeah. It's perfectly believable that Wolf is going on. He's extremely susceptible when it comes to Avatar because he saw it through child eyes, and now that he's an adult. But I'm just getting into speculation. Let me make this clear. All this is just speculation, just pointing out facts I see. As someone who considers myself able to criticize anything, you might not put put much faith in it. Let me bring up I did the Civil War video. Did I say actual critique of Avengers Civil War, even though it's Captain America Civil War? Although that video isn't perfect, in my videos, I actually go for a little bit more entertainment over pure accuracy. Just something I do. A little bit of humor. I think still a lot of my points, even through the humor, even through some of the mistakes I make in my video, still shines through. I like to point out flaws, even if I don't directly point them out. And that movie does not hold up, in my personal opinion, as someone who's seriously going at it objectively, as the people of EFAP tend to say they do. But I can't actually convince anyone of my position. There's just a lot of people who probably would agree with me if they looked at it objectively. But that's besides the point. Objective, subjective, there's all sorts of things. I'm going to do something on a good faith criticism. Hopefully I can get some people in. If not, I'll just go at it myself. And SK is at the top of the list for someone who really crystallized that idea of the flaw with this sort of EFAP methodology in analyzing. Not that it's a bad tool. It's a great tool. What EFAP proclaims as objective criticism is absolutely a useful tool and definitely something that should be highly considered. But when it's your only tool in your arsenal, and you also let your bias, your interest guide you to what you are, and sort of saying, yeah, making statements 4 out of 10, have that horrible little discussion. I wouldn't even call that debate with Literature Devil and just call it quits. Seems a little lame. He did the same thing here, duck and cover with Terriers. Not going to actually be as harsh, cause some interpersonal conflict. I can understand why Southpaw has problems and been so. Let's just say it. He's been assessed. Hopefully he gets over that with this video and moves on. Godspeed for that man. All that sort of side interjection.
It was what I needed at a certain point of time, and through it, I found something much better. It's a piece of me, but I can let it go and appreciate the new things I love much more. I'm not trying, and neither is Mauler or Fringy, to take away Terriers from you. That'll always be your piece. But there's intrinsic value in dissecting the media and showing what's really on top and what isn't. And I think it makes you really appreciate the craft. And look, I was annoyed when Mauler and Fringy first gave me their criticisms of Terriers. Not at them, not at you, not at the show, but at myself for missing these things.
Wolf definitely tends to be self-reflective. Both Southpaw and Wolf, I believe, are self-admitted autists. So definitely susceptible, very rigid, hard to change. Autism is a spectrum, so you're going to get all sorts of results and all sorts of things out of that sort of mess there. And
I get it. It can be a hit to your pride to admit to yourself that you miss something you generally see anywhere else. Sometimes it's just a little.
And they tend to take things way too seriously, not getting humor sometimes, not getting social cues. Definitely the case for Southpaw, I would say, in a lot of cases. Probably even SK to a extreme extent, and take some things way too seriously, in my opinion. But you know what? I'm not going to judge them for it. You know who you're dealing with. Obviously, there was a lot of rigmarole, but
thing you're infatuated with. That
so we
overrides the
have
logical
this
part.
whole
It's your
thing
mind, and that would
here.
typically
I
see these
think
errors.
I
Happens, yep.
have ended that rather well, and I'm going to have to switch over to another sort of thing. I probably shouldn't. I really wanted to get the Mauler post. I thought that was on that video, but it was remake, so it's probably smart to keep the Mauler Reddit post, which I can't find, so I guess it's deleted. But there was a link to a post from Dishonored Wolf in the Mauler subreddit. Original post is gone, but you can still see some of the comments. So we're going to take a look at that real quick to establish really sort of Wolf's idea, how things turned out in this sort of ER discussion, since that's not really publicly available. In the interest of clarity, we don't get to see what Wolf put out there originally. And I'm going to leave this full screen. So yeah, this is obviously Wolf. his account deleted 4 years ago. Someone saying you can't be Wolf. Almost a joke. Blah, blah, blah. Rags comparing Avatar to sequel trilogy. I'm not supporting. Okay. Here is what I assume is Wolf. At Avatar The Last Airbenders, where some episodes really reach a quality reminiscent of the sequels. I call bullshit on that. But maybe Wolf does not understand how anime sort of goes off and the sort of humor they go with. Maybe the blind swordsman, but they don't actually bring that up as a criticism. I think he's just putting too much faith in the criticism his friends, Mauler, tries to lay out for him. However, there's a lot of nuance to this. Yes, absolutely. These moments are in isolation that are just really bad writing, which I disagree with. And which, again, Mauler will be deconstructing in the future. Was that the conversation with Literature Devil going in, not giving him any pushback, not giving any defense? And what happened to the conversation with ER? Just disappeared into the aether. So this 4 years ago never materialized, but they still probably propped this up because, you know what? I don't think EFAP can take back a statement. For some reason, I don't think they really are. They feel like it'll hurt them. And I really think it's a case of Mauler not wanting to overstep bounds, but feeling the same way Joseph Anderson felt about people criticizing him about Soma, especially Mauler. I can see a lot of overlap with this take of Mauler, which wasn't as bad of an overstep as Joseph Anderson reaction to his Soma video, but it's still him just sort of dodging instead of reacting badly. He had a Reddit post where I think he doubled down. I don't know what time period, can't find it. So this is about the best. Plus, this is really about Wolf and how because he got involved with the Terriers. He got involved with this. Thought he got involved with sort of bringing BoJack Horseman to everyone and him having to do a sort of a 10-minute speech of why he was wrong about BoJack Horseman. That just strikes me as weird. Some sort of, oh, I learned something so new. I've seen the light. And in that case, maybe he's correct. Don't like that show. But back to this, where the sequels actively destroy everything that good came before. I think that's a little hyperbolic. Avatar The Last Airbender almost regulated to the episodes they're individually contained in, with only a select few that actually have repercussions for the rest of the show. Hate this talking point. Example. I would like an example here. You can say that easily. Means nothing to me. Do a video. It doesn't happen because Mauler didn't do it. And if the one video they have on it is trying to do that, it fails completely because his idea of objective criticism and giving the media a fair shot simply falls way flat there. To say their equivalent is simply asinine. Yeah, true statement there. There's way too much context necessary to make that kind of radical claim. Rags' ass, who has a very limited understand of media and can only be interested in certain things. And once again, I side with the fans in saying Rags' remark to that degree are unfounded and rooted in a stark lack of knowledge of the thing he's critiquing. I will double down, agree with that. People wish him well. I guess this was the first time he came back. Pretending Mauler, are we pretending like Mauler has some duty to apologize for Rags, or is that post gonna ease the tears? Blah, blah, blah. I think there might be some truth. 6 upvotes. Not gonna put too much in it. The debate episode where this drama is either squashed or becomes much worse. So the debate thing made things worse. Echo Chamber, yeah, Wolf, blah, blah, blah. Guess that's someone. Thanks, Wolf. Your perspective. Okay, back to what I presume is Wolf, it was that possibly that made me speak out. I saw quite a lot of people saying, and I'm paraphrasing a bit here, that this thing is the thing that'll prove that Mauler and co does not know anything about storytelling. Now, I wouldn't go that far personally. I would just say when something that they aren't interested in and they try to cover it, they bundle it completely. They don't have the media background to understand the sort of framing for it. Not out of context. It's just some types of stories. Avatar: The Last Airbender was definitely done in the vein of moralistic tales. Little backstory: 90s cartoons, probably even Nickelodeon there was a lot of violence, a lot of things. So you couldn't have a lot of killing after a certain point. There was a lot of rules and restrictions on TV. I don't know if that really applied to the cable, but that probably the mindset was in the story, why they don't show death in Avatar: The Last Airbender. And a lot of other little elements like the inspiration from anime that both Rags and Mauler says they don't really care for. And why I think as a serious critic, you can judge something, even for something you don't care for, through objective criticism. These guys can't. Their objective criticism is incomplete. They have to have a actual interest, but that's just a personal opinion of mine based on what they do mostly accurately critique comparison to what they really bundle or sidestep in a lot of different ways. So this is a topic that, back into the post, this is a topic that needs no small amount of tech in order for the fans to understand this is an incredibly unpopular opinion and using bad facts to sort of try to support it. It's equivalent for a lot of people saying The Lord of the Rings is bad, that Star Wars is bad, or Aliens, Predator, True 2, and a lot of other classics are bad. You can hold that opinion. Hell, you might be right if you have a good enough argument. I don't like this. Not everything's an argument. I can say Mauler was mostly in that debate with Literature Devil, was factually wrong with a lot of the points he brought up. Not an actual argument, that's an actual fact. Not an argument, just a fact. Here, but you can't start off by insulting everyone. They just sort of mindset. Who's insulting everyone? I think he's talking about Rags here. So, yeah, he's talking about Rags here, I think. And that's sort of Rags' stick. That was one of the things I did in the past. Okay, so he's trying to change, trying to back off from that, maybe losing some of his fire. Again, speculation on that. Trying to reform and being more malleable, more easygoing, and not insult people. Try to get along with people. I know firsthand how much that destroys anything you have to say, no matter how legitimate. Simply saying Avatar is bad isn't good enough. You need rock solid references, and you need to treat it as a civil discussion, not a tense argument. The clear mudslinging Rags did only served to hurt the arguments. No, he had no arguments before they were even made. I wanted to step in and assure people that people understood Rags. Okay, let me read. And I wanted to step in and assure people. So he's doing some PR work here for EFAP. Wanted to step in and ensure people understood that what Rags said is not reflective of Mauler or the rest of EFAP. Very good corporate speak. Sort of sad. Okay, genuinely hear you. Post credit, cleared up big way. Perspective makes a lot more sense. Can't comment. I've never seen Avatar. See, I'm seeing a lot of overlap. But instead of really Rags, well, maybe it is Rags who started the Terriers. He does do some passive aggressive stuff with Terriers from what I've seen. But it's definitely Fringy who goes for the throat. Okay, we're definitely back to the presumed Dishonored Wolf. I don't think Rags is always I don't think Rags is always criticized on the moment as much as some other peers, though this is just from my anecdotal experience. I can't speak for Mauler, Fringer, or anyone else affiliated with EFAP. It wasn't a conscious decision to kiss his ass or cover for him. I believe that. You're actually sort of throwing him under the bus here. But you are sort of covering for Mauler, even though he was covering for Rags, it seems like. But because I've known from years' experience, no matter what position he has, Rags is very unlikely to back down from it. Correct. You have to keep that in mind. Don't take Rags serious. His argumentation is a little bit bullish. Sometimes it's justified, sometimes it's not, and he won't back down even if he's in the wrong. And if you want friends to back you up on that, that's where I think the problems come. And I do think there's an element of that at play. And derailing conversation, being criticized. Okay, skirts around arguments Rags will do about anything to skirt around arguments he can't fight against, derail the conversation so he can get out of being criticized. Okay, makes sense. This is a friend saying this or him throwing him under the bus. It's exactly what he did to me when I called him out for his avatar and RE2 takes, straight up bringing in a different game that was never mentioned in the course of the conversation to prove that he doesn't do the thing he's on record doing. Okay, I'm processing this. It's exactly what he did to me when I called him out for his avatar and RE2, Resident Evil 2 takes. Straight up bringing in a different game that was never mentioned in the course of the conversation to prove he doesn't do a thing he's on the record for doing. Yeah, a little weirdly worded, but okay. I get the general sentiment. Straight up bring in a different game that was never mentioned. So he tries to bring in a different game to sort of either deflect or say it's better, did the same ideas better, or blah, blah, blah. And sort of whataboutism, maybe deflection. There's too little detail for it, but I get the general sentiment, and I could see Rags doing something like that because I agree with this criticism of Rags from the Dishonored Wolf. Here's somewhat critical. Generally, we don't want to fight among ourselves because we're all friends. Yet they seem to place in the wolf thing that he was talking about. He places the sort of a need for, as friends, to take the criticism seriously and man up and go through with it. It's sort of contradictory, sort of a mishmash of all these things, in my personal opinion. Okay, I can't say. Maybe Wolf has changed his opinions since this post 4 years ago and how he approached Southpaw about terriers. Generally, we don't fight among ourselves because we're all friends and we value that relationship we have with each other. And sometimes you value the honesty of the criticism, which doesn't even seem to be correct in both Avatar: The Last Airbender and with terriers. At least those two cases. Only 2 cases so far that I've seen, but I'm hoping this does not create a third time sometime in the future. Maybe they're mitigated, I hope they do. And I can understand this because this was after Wolf went off and Rags is emotional, probably got a lot more antagonistic after all this. Rags really fucks up the chance of having a civil discussion. You can say that again. Rags really fucks up the chance of having a civil discussion. Yeah, I said it again. And seeing plenty of people are starting to discount anything Mauler or any of the other guys have to say about media criticism was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. You want to make an ass out of yourself, fine, but don't bring down the other people with you. Like I said in the original post, don't know what that is, delete it. No, all these remain. I don't know if it went with his account, the original post, or if he deleted it. I don't think for a second that I changed his mind, but for whatever it's worth, I'm not on his side with this one. He took it way too far, and from my perspective, that term again, it's good to use that term. But you need to respect other people's perspective, and Rags doesn't, and it seems like other people in EFAP don't always respect, especially even within. Mauler probably does his best faith effort, but I think is somewhat limited, but that's my opinion there. Now, it does seem like he's planning to dial. Oh, sorry. Oh, I was reading that completely wrong. No, I'm not on his side. He took it way too far, and from my perspective, it doesn't seem like he's planning on dialing it back anytime soon, if at all. Probably not. Probably sort of like Doomer on stitching at him. He's assigned himself to being the heel. Okay, response. I think noticed behavior for a while. Audience has just tolerated until now. Still on. Geez, pitching. If he used it was a joke defense, another check mark argumentation of the people EFAP. Yeah. Okay, perfectly normal. How are you doing? Good. No stake in the race. Clarification. Southpaw actually comes into this. This is something interesting that I'm surprised to see when I found this, because this was linked on the video. Great to get some public clarification to you, Wolf. From you, Wolf. Glad to see you're doing well. I'd like to add, I just had a call with Mauler and other co-hosts on my podcast, Evan Moreau and Buzz Axe, the latter of who's just a big fan of TLA, and why I had to eject about an hour to catch a show of Invisible Man. Most of the point Mauler brought up against the show, why I was in the call, were legitimate. I find that funny. I have not actually heard any, but Southpaw at this time was Team EFAP, I assume from this, and Buzz and I couldn't push back against them. There was one we were able to push back against and got him to concede, but it was more minor Sorry, 1,000 paper cuts is the way I hear Mauler going at the show, Avatar: The Last Airbender. More minor. See, I really would like some details, but I guess PR, friendship, power of friendship, reassuring the fans. I don't know what the hell this is. Maybe Southpaw could say what mindset he was in this. But we're doing another call with him today for further clarification. But how I feel about the show is currently that why it's not airtight as I remembered. There's something about the execution, in spite of those flaws, the ones I've been pointing out to, at least Mauler pointing these out, I think. I think that's the implication here. Said we only got through like 10% of his notes last night. This is sort of funny, okay? Don't quote me on this. I'm pretty sure in the sort of whole Terriers debacle, Mauler brought up the fact that he learned to take better notes with Terriers and that he didn't take great notes during Terriers. Don't quote me on it. It's just a little bit weird that this sort of a conversation that's going on. I really appreciate. Yeah, I got off track. I really appreciate, similar to Toy Story 1, that the movie has a plot hole that affects the premise that the plot is built around. Buzz lacks self-awareness. He's a toy, yet he prones when humans come around. Yeah, I mean, if you're thinking in a logical terms, it is a plot hole. But if you're thinking with childhood wonder, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I will accept that as an actual plot hole in Toy Story 1. And the fact that they break it later on makes it very apparent in the story, but childhood wonder, you do give that one sort of a pass for that glaring plot hole. I will admit that's there. Buzz lacks awareness. He's a toy prone. Aside from that one massive, the writing's pretty strong. Yes. Overall, writing strong, blah, blah, blah. That's currently how I feel. Yes, but there is no massive plot hole. He's like, that's how I currently feel about Avatar: The Last Airbender. But there isn't a major whole. There's death by 1,000 cuts from Mauler, and a lot of his even greater points he brought up in the discussion just seem to be outright wrong. And even Mauler said objective criticism, if that's what he's using with Avatar: The Last Airbender, it sort of makes his critique of it very, very flawed, since most of them can be disproven or have a legitimate reason why it's built as it is. Haven't heard all of Mauler's criticisms myself, so he's vouching for Mauler without knowing all the criticism, just putting faith in him. Same boat, blah, blah, blah. Well, did briefly, Wolf tried to read the book. Okay. A lot of other comments. Just going through all this fun stuff, which really isn't fun, to try to keep a document and what I think is relevant. This is linked in the description. You can probably even see this. I don't even know if I should really go over. Here's some Wolf comment again, which is the relevant material. Well, luckily in this case, the only thing that people has said against me have been due to an honest misunderstanding. So I'm really not bothered by it. I've dealt with much worse, at least. Yes. I thought about briefly covering the Dishonored Wolf Discord drama that sort of stressed him out to enough. But that was from a mirror video, and it's really hard, and I don't want to do the digging into it. That seemed like bullshit, but I don't have the other side, so it's a little bit weird to sort of go through with it. Sort of disappointing on that. But yeah, I can understand the stress for him and why he left. But to have him come in, pinch enter these 2 times to sort of talk to people, talk to the audience about all this, just seems a little weird to me. Yeah, I think I criticized someone saying it's just weird, but in this case, it's weird that he left and now he's coming in, probably because he's one of the advocates for Avatar: The Last Airbender, and he probably mentioned it and probably got mad. But with the Terrier stuff, I think that was kept on the DL and revealed by SK or even Southpaw himself, that he interjected himself into the sort of interpersonal shit going on there. Rags decided to go nuclear with the uninformed rant about the show he barely watched. True. And I wanted to try and clear some things up, since Mauler isn't going to have a chance to do that for himself for a while. What with his workload and all, don't know about that. I care about them, and I don't want something like this to potentially damage their credibility or careers. I think that's the most honest that he's getting. He's running PR defense. I can't be sure of that. It just seems a bit interesting. Someone running their mouth, and I think this is why they took such a reaction to what Southpaw did on Twitter. They saw that as a threat to the EFAP brand. The EFAP brand, and really just went into panic mode. And you got the defense force to come out for him, and you had to lock down and move on. We're not going to talk about it. Nothing to see here, folks. But again, speculated. And I can't even be sure this is the Dishonored Wolf. Maybe this probably was on an account of Dishonored Wolf. Was it actually him? Oh, Southpaw sort of confirms it later on. So I'm assuming that this is. I care about them and don't want something like this to potentially damage their credibility or career. So at some point, Mauler, Rags, I guess a lot of other people in EFAP prioritize their credibility and career over actual facts. Again, could be wrong, but this would lead me to believe that Wolf is letting something slip here. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I'm fine with talking out, analyzing. I want to understand. I'm not going to say anything I say is factually true, but that's my impression from the understanding I have. And believe it or not, I'm not a complete moron, and I've gone through college, psychology, and some digital communications, believe it or not, despite some of my speech issues. Yeah. And some of my questionable choices on the internet. But, you know, it's up to people to believe or not. And I'm not even sure if I believe, just a theory. Just a EFAP theory here. Okay, totally understand. Looks like civil war was breaking out. That is weird. I still don't know if I get behind Saw Paul's idea that why he was attacked was because of he was going to expose Captain America Civil War. I don't think that would have actually concerned them too much how they go along. I think that's a little far-fetched of a theory. I just think his sort of outburst on Twitter just went into panic mode and they let the fans take over and let them do their thing and they just ignore him. La la la. Rags brought it along, but again, everything I do is speculation. And everyone I talk to could be lying to me, could be completely lied to by everyone I'm talking to. And Mauler and Rags, those were all fake in all that SK video. For the record, that video, SK made a large case. I think the Jolly Chap had the best take on that, which I'll play at the end. Seems like the most. I don't know how he's come along since that video, but time tends to sour people, and definitely some of the fandom of EFAP are definitely the toxic brood in a true and utter sense and do prefer character attacks over actual argumentation. And that's just sad considering they're trying to defend EFAP with just character attacks. Craptastic. It's good to hear that. Okay. Why do you think Mauler worded your view of Zuka the way he did? The way he said it came off as you hate Zuka, equivalent of Kylo, quality included. Okay, he's denying that. I think that was just a miscommunication between us. Either I didn't properly word what I meant with my comparison between the characters, or he misinterpreted it. After the stream, he told me what he said and asked if that was accurate, hence the pinned comment he made later in an attempt to clarify my position. So I think there's just confusion on it, not anything malicious. Okay, while you're here, do you think Mauler quickly cut off the stream made things worse? So, well, again, I haven't seen the stream, so I don't know the severity of it myself. I can see how, from what I've heard, it could lead fans to believe that they were trolling or trying to rile up the audience. I can say with confidence, Mauler never attended that, and I can't speak for him, but I figured he might felt pressure to end it before he went any further, especially since he wanted to be 100% confidence in his argument. I did not know he didn't mean for his comment about what I thought to come across in the way it did, nor did he intend for the episodes to get that far at hand. Can't really comment on how much better or worse it would have been. Of course not. Hypothetical. People will think what they think, so I guess it's up to your subjective opinion. Okay. Subjective opinion. Discuss noise. Dirty word in EFAP fandom. Delete it. What is in word? Never Hillary. Pretty cool guy. Thank you, Wolf. Appreciate. Thank you for posting. So I assume this is Wolf. Ooh, did I miss something by Wolf here? Don't know. Oh, here we go. Maybe I should do this. Okay. Give me a second. Not anyone's really watching. I sort of went off my normal time to purposely not have people watch this live. Thank you for anyone who joined me, but I'm trying to avoid this. I think I should be looking at this. There's also reasons not to. Okay, applying the absolute objective standard metric for a show that's targeted at the okay. With heightened imaginations is a false equivalency. My main gripe is with the hot takes from Maulers and Rags. See, I really think this is a fallacious argument. Children, talking about the attendant audience. I mean, there is a certain amount of legitimate expectations set in that the audience does do it, but not the way he's framing it here. I think the false equivalence. I joke about fallacies and I'll even throw them in, but I really hate the people who actually use fallacies seriously. I use them mainly as jokes or just shorthand. And I do need to clarify, even when I use shorthand, why I believe it to be that particular fallacy. If my fallacies, the fallacies I'm throwing out aren't actual jokes, why it can be seen as fallacious that children flicks can be objectively consistent, can't be blah, blah, blah. Beyond is really offended about this drama is that Rags compared the sequel trilogy. You can try to do that with Core like ER did in his videos, but for ATLA, simply not true. Our metric really doesn't discriminate or act unfairly towards children's content. Mauler and I have watched a lot of movies together, a few of which have been definitely geared towards children, like The Lion King, which we adored, which personally is a self-contained movie. Less time for flaws to become apparent, more tightly compact, so comparing it to a TV show is a little bit weird. Another more flawed film was Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of Black Pearl. Flaws aren't numerous in this movie, nor are they big. We acknowledge that they were there and still love the movie. We laughed about it, just every silly gag meant for kids and not an issue with it. Okay, this almost seems like a deflection. It's not a really good comparison to either one of those. But you know what? He's putting in this framing. That's fine. We're just looking for eternal consistency. That line again. When you attack the longer something runs, comparing movies to a TV show that runs, 8 hours, 6 to 10 hours each season. So probably about at least 30 minimum for the entire 3 seasons. We can give and have given plenty of leeway towards child's content television shows with a certain particular aim and within the restraints of network television standards, which I can't factually check if Nickelodeon would have done it, but I do believe that they would have probably aired, at least in the beginning, with no deaths on that side. We frequently defended children's content from people like Patrick Williams applied that children's are stupid. Good on you. I don't know what this has to do with this. So they deserve content that's... Yeah, sorry. I definitely don't like this response. Definitely seems like a deflection. Saying, we've defended children media from actual bad critics like Patrick Williams. We're not ignorant to the fact that we can't judge a movie like The Fox and the Hound the same as The Lord of the Rings. Again, movies. Keep bringing up movies. It's a miscomprehension. Who cares? It's a miscomprehension people have about us. When in reality, as long as the piece abides by its own rules and logic of its universe, we're not going to expect something like Avatar to be the next Shawshank Redemption by any means. Ooh, quite a load. The problem we had were specific to the universe and characters which the show took place. We graded it no differently from children's content we still love. The problem is that we had a lot more issues than we believe people acknowledge. Me talking here, Vincent Martin, when those issues, if they're the ones Mauler brought up in his discussion, they are incredibly flawed. But you know what? You don't want to go on with a flawed thing. Just move on, not care about it. Let your fans defend you or just ignore it. You know, rather thing that Mueller started off criticizing people for. But you know what? You're getting bigger. You have to worry about it. You know where they're going from. Can't stay the pure, innocent, bright-eyed group of friends. You got to start keeping that business mind in. I understand it. Do I believe you're honest with your criticism here and that this is a legitimate attempt? I don't know. It's really hard. This is 4 years ago. Maybe they still believed in what they're doing. Maybe they still believe what they're doing now, but seems a little bit weak for me how Mueller now occasionally can't take criticism. 2 instances prompted by rags, typically getting them into these sort of little weird messes. But you know what? Maybe some controversy, some hot takes is actually good for the brand. Okay, the problem is we have a lot more issues, people acknowledge, blah, blah, blah. Said that already. Why I side with ER on a few things in our call that's never been released or really discussed from what I know. We felt there were quite a few weak defenses there. Yeah, I'm not going to take your word for it when it's not released. You're obviously, well, at least Mauler or maybe ER. Who knows why it isn't being released? I would like to see it. In the interest of not causing any more issues, which probably is the prime thing, I'll just leave it to Mauler and ER to work out if they want any of that conversation shared. Which, since 4 years ago, I haven't heard hide or hair of that. It would be, again, interested in hearing how that would go. But to wrap up, there wasn't any false equivalence with our metrics. Maybe you're right. I just think you're really flawed overall. Okay, no defense has come. You've just moved past it and say, I would have to watch it again, blah, blah, blah. Not going to deal with it. Okay, fine. Definitely a blow to their credibility no matter what. So that's why they pull out the wolf for instances like this. I'm not going to say that's what he's exclusively for, but that's what he's doing here. And he was in the background for Terriers. So make what you want of that. But we were only looking for logical consistency. Specific to the story and world itself, regardless of other media. Oof. Softball comes. Why side with TR? Quite a few. Between you saying this and Southpaw above saying most of Mauler point were legit, I'm extremely curious now. I'm too. I assume this would just be a bad take, and I'm still open to that, but I'm starting to worry a little now. Ruining TLJ for me was probably for the best. It opened my eyes up to the blah, 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 everything criticized on the show, except for Arrival. I'm going to have to look at that debate after I see the movie, because that definitely seems like a contentious tape. I'm definitely going to follow up with this, give my opinion. This one's acknowledged. A lot of people seem to be with Jay on Arrival, so I'm curious about that. Future idea, but I'm on Jay with that one. This is something else entirely. Mauler is going to actually ruin my favorite show, isn't he? Come on, ERs. See, I don't like the framing of this. Maybe it's just a joke. Okay, I went through it, and I do have criticisms for Avatar: The Last Airbender, but putting it in the context of what it is and within the consistency of writing, yes, Mauler's has displayed most of Mauler's points in his sort of discussion, because it wasn't a debate with Literature Devil on Avatar: The Last Airbender, was off objectively, like categorically the majority. I'm not going to say everything he said had no merit, but enough of it, over 50% of it, I think that calls a stinker and should go down in the history books as a failure. Thank you for weighing in, man. Couldn't find a way to defend Rags either. Hi, Wolf. Glad to see you well. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Hi, Wolf. Given that Zuko's arc is the only piece of criticism you tried to give, It's the only one I'll try to counter. Yes, Kyle Ren is a shittier version of Zuko. It's just a shittier version of Darth Vader or any other character. Has a decent redemption arc. Zuko begins off with a set of beliefs that were challenged during the course of the series. Kylo Ren became good in the end. Also, could you give us anything else in terms of actual flaws? I'm one of those fanboys who's completely oblivious to the show's flaws, and I would like to know more. This might actually not be Wolf. Okay. It's a different delete it. I really wasn't criticizing Zuko's arc, though I wasn't really comparing his arc with Kylo's. Since times I made those comments, went back early. Sorry, I was checking something. Wasn't even really comparing his arc to Kylo's, since the times I made those comments went back as early as before TLJ came out, when Kylo had yet to even have an arc. I was talking specifically about the characters itself, and again, I tried to make it clear in the post that what Mauler said on his stream was inaccurate. I don't think he's anywhere nearly as bad as Kylo Ren, and I say he's still one of my favorite parts of the show. As to giving you anything else, I really can't right now. This is me talking? Of course not. I'm not even going to speculate on the reasons. Let me just move on. This is something I would want to rewatch the whole show for. Same thing Mauler sort of said, but he didn't have the effort from memory. I could be wrong on that, but you have a good memory. It's just full of holes like Swiss cheese. I remember bits and pieces. Believe that really was Mauler's sort of response. Maybe my opinions were covered by Mauler being there. Okay. Want to give it the benefit of the doubt. Maybe my opinions were colored by Mauler being there. Probably a high likelihood. Extremely easily influenced. That's one of the traits of autism, which makes sense. Maybe I just wasn't paying enough attention. Admit it. I am playing a video game pretty much every time we watch a movie or show together. And maybe I miss small things that might help alleviate some of the issues I had. I want to go back through before confidently saying anything else, since I'm much more on the fence about it than Mauler is. And even he's going to go back through the show again and actively talk to people who still like it to get every opinion on the issue he sees as possibly can, which, from what I know, didn't happen. Because he understands you have to tread carefully with this type of thing. I can guarantee that Mauler will be making a stream sometime in the future specifically about this, though. Didn't happen. Okay, this sort of has a weird fail in here. Okay, so long man bad. That's correct. Why I agree. Behavior and treatment. Oh, here. Should actually read this. Why I agree 100% on Rag's behavior and his treatment of anime in general. We'll agree with. There is a lot of crappy anime out there. And a lot of the popular anime are super crappy. But I'm not going to judge it for that. I wouldn't call all of anime crappy. There's just not very much good. And I say that as an anime fan who's very critical of it. And mostly the good things I would consider aren't popular. Especially considering the fact you want to disappear from the online sphere, make things contrary to your wishes. But at least Mauler knew he screwed up on that one. Which one? Maybe an anime? I don't know what he's referring to. I started rewatching the show. I'm up to episode 12. The show definitely flaws from range minor to medium. The only real Tisman thing I've seen so far, Great Divide, the Subdue the Cannon Straw. No one. Yeah, okay. I don't know about that. Yeah, I can almost agree. I can't believe how they subdued the cannon crawlers and how no one questioned Aang's obviously flawed story. I don't know about that. Okay, I'm on the fence about that particular thing. I can understand someone having that perspective about both those issues. Nothing in particularly with Zuko yet. He's said to Arrow, get ready in a half hour, and shows up dark, wide, it's daylight when he said it. Obviously, he left without him, okay? Not a big issue. Maybe he fumed and gave him more time, blah, blah, blah. You don't really know the details. Minor issue, I can see you have a problem with that. But other than having some bad singular episode, or episodes, it doesn't matter. I don't really see the major fundamental flaws of the show. Maybe I'm not there yet. At least one that you could elaborate upon. Yeah, keep one examples. Yeah, Mauler, Rags, criticized. See, I really don't know where you're at in the timeline. Is this after the debate or... Sorry. Just don't know where in the timeline this is. Theoretically. I've yet to see Mauler, Raz criticize, make a scene. Such a fight scene look like shit from what I've seen. The fight looked much better than modern shows like Steam. Yeah, the fighting is definitely not something you should criticize. Some places it's weaker than others, I will say, but some of the major fight scenes like Zuko versus the one guy, I don't know, in the fight, that was well done. A lot of the one-on-one fights are. It's mainly some of the more wider scale fights that tend to lose quality. But yeah, it is superior to most cartoons. Once again, super glad, blah, blah, blah. Makes claim about quality, even if he's correct about it. Wait, what? Blah, blah. Sorry, I probably should have worded that better. Like I said, I don't know what specifically Rags said about the show. When I said, even if he's correct about it, I mean purely hypothetical that it could apply to it. Okay, understandable. I believe you can be right about something for the wrong reasons, such as Anita Sarkeesian thinking Bioshock Infinite is a bad game. I think that's a bit much. I believe it's not better than most. It's worse than most people think it for a couple different issues, both gameplay and story. But that's a different story for a different day. It is not for the reasons you think. From what I've been told, Rags implied that he and Mauler had the exact same take on Avatar The Last Airbender. But I can guarantee that, at least as of now, Mauler didn't come across thinking as badly as TLJ. The fact that Rags, based on his opinion off of a couple episode and clips, claiming it was just as bad as TLJ is utterly asinine. I think he said that. Hell, I'd say the show, for all its fault, is still a lot better than most movies that come out in the past few years. And it has the handicap of having a long period where it has to have filler. That's me, not this is Dishonored Wolf. But if you're looking at this, you would know that. Don't want to give Dishonored Wolf one of my odd voices because that would be disrespectful to the Dishonored Wolf. Not sure if Mauler would agree with that, but I'm pretty certain he knows Avatar isn't as bad as TLJ. There's nothing wrong with Avatar that destroys decades legacy. Blah, blah, blah. It has no history. It's a new, fresh slate. Demonstrate a complete... To say otherwise just demonstrates a complete lack of understanding of Avatar in general. I think there is a lack of understanding of Avatar as a medium and as a show. Why TLJ? Yeah, always bringing up there. Punching bag TLJ. I'll agree it's bad, but the comparison. Don't know what to say about that. Anything more here? Sort of losing out. What's going down? What happens when I stream by myself? But I didn't want to pull anyone else into this massive mess of nonsense. Wonder if this is the Shiva Palpatine. Don't really care. Chat? Really? Okay, Doomcock. This doesn't. My candidates for EFAP host would be Doomcock. The series keep push back many. Are they talking about replacing? I have no clue. Critical drinker, strong persona, blah blah blah. I don't even know. Though Fringy is nice to have too. Eh, yeah, I do wonder why Fringy is picked. I really don't think very highly of Fringy overall. I mean, as not a complete idiot all the time, but he has some huge blind spots from what I've seen. Can't agree with him on most things. You don't want to know. Who's Mauler? Mauler's just a long man bad critic. It's really some serious crap. I'm going over some stupid drama that's pertaining from Mauler. And this is someone running defense for Mauler who used to be on his podcast, EFAP. This is probably not Dishonored Wolf, who got in trouble years ago. Mauler is long man bad, boring content, sort of like the stream is turning out. And I probably didn't cover it, but I believe Softball confirmed over Discord that this was Wolf who posted this. And you know what? I want to end this by a little more context. Trying to avoid any criticism from idiots out there. Trying to dodge this because this might be a contentious stream. Talking bad about EFAP after I talk so much shit about other critics. My bad boy rep is just going to keep on growing if I'm not careful about it, even if I am careful about it. So, good question. Did EFAP get worse after Dishonest? Since the Synthetic Man incident, which I sort of covered and thought it was a little bit weak. Very bit weak. Don't get me wrong. Miss Wolf's psychotic fuel as much as the next man. This probably is useless, but the question is out there. Oh, it's not gotten worse. The hosts are all the same, but the essential of EFAP is the same. Some people are just butthurt, right-leaning like Synthetic Man, harshly, blah, blah, blah. Losers. Yeah, to actually say that EFAP didn't take a blow by losing Dishonored Wolf seems really significantly stupid, because it definitely had an effect on morale. And considering this sort of kerfuffle over the criticism of fucking up on Avatar: The Last Airbender, got prompted just a couple of months after the official wiki says that Wolf left EFAP and YouTube, is understandable why there would be some instability within this and being focused on being credible. No, technically it got better because Fringy is full-time, get more screen side because what? Not to say that's okay. I really don't know. It's probably a waste of time. They're anti-bad. Yeah, waste of time to probably go on this. Synthetic Man, I just think the Wolf destabilized EFAP. Okay, I don't even know why I bother with this. I think I'm really out of it. So you have two extremely bad fuck-ups that I can almost 100% say is bad criticism. There might be more. Might have to look into that Arrival movie and the Arrival debate, see how well that went. I'm also curious about the sort of analyzing the sort of discussion Mauler had with, what was the not douchebag, your movie sucks. But yeah, his opinion, your movie sucks. And I'm not trying to draw this out. So I am just keeping things for the record. But I did want to sort of end and just for the record, which I might pull off on its own, has absolutely nothing to do with any of this. But you know what? It's so cosmically stupid. I wanted to actually cover it because this is cosmically stupid. But as for this, got into this a while ago, picking up clips for Andrew Clark stumbled into this SK thing, looking into it, talked to Southpaw. It's really, truly a mess that I can't make sense of. But I can say, both with Terriers, almost with 100%, the criticism of Terriers seems to be rather malicious, personal, and unfair towards the show. Not saying it's a flawless show, or even if anyone should like it. It's just some of the criticism against it was bad. And the same can be said about Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now, Doom fanboys can go into this, but it really doesn't matter on that regards. What's EFAP really? EFAP is every frame a pause, okay? And you're coming at the end, if you're still even here. Just gonna look at this cosmically stupid take from freaking Fantano, because this is cosmically stupid. I just wanted to add to the mess of this. Okay. Just need to set this up because, as most people will admit, I am retarded. At least when it comes to streams. That's why I'm streaming, to try to figure it out. And I am getting tired. Streaming for a couple hours is something you need to build up. And just end this up with a really stupid, bad take. So we have Oliver Anthony update on the country song as sort of a nice little breakaway from all that EFAP reading I did, just to laugh at his bad take.
Never make it. Hi, everyone. Anthony
And I guess it's okay singing, but not great.
Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well. Let's talk about everyone's new favorite singer and songwriter in the country scene. That would be Mr. Oliver Anthony, a guy who we talked about on this channel not too long ago. Much to the dismay of many a commenter, saying that I was misunderstanding Oliver Anthony singing about rich men north of Richmond, and he wasn't drawing a north-south line. He was just singing about politicians from DC, because that's north of Richmond, guys.
Yes, you fucking moron. That is the literal interpretation. I don't know why you're trying to make this into such a little bullshit. And I previewed this. This is such a fucking cope here. Oh, there's politicians everywhere.
Like, number one, Richmond, home of the Confederacy. So there's that, number one. And number two, there are politicians all over the country contributing to the societal and economic ills that Oliver Anthony supposedly cares about.
Yes, but where do the majority of them gather nationally to sort of dictate national laws? What would be the best representative if you just wanted to have a proxy? It's the name. Richmond, north of Richmond, has a certain cadence to it that flows very well. As a music critic, you have to admit the sort of a cadence of a rich man who's not a poor man, above Richmond, a city that's close to DC, has a certain cadence to it. For you to have this brain dead take about there's politicians everywhere about what he is, it's just so goddamn stupid. And I haven't watched past this. This was just stupid enough to be like, okay, let me just put this out and say this is one of the most brain dead takes of stretching for some sort of criticism out there.
It's not just the ones north of Richmond. But regardless, I talked about this in part in a clip that didn't make it into the original video. I don't think he just generally means...
Yeah, serious L moment. Do I even believe you? Who the fuck knows?
Politicians. There's politicians all over the United States of America. And most likely there's a lot of Southern politicians he probably agrees with. I don't think this guy would have an issue with government generally if it were, espousing and supporting whatever ideas he believed in. So yeah, Oliver's song.
So you're going way too fucking deep. Looking into the mystery box, you see everything is a dog whistle everywhere. Get your fucking head out your fucking ass and, just stop trying to find conspiracy theories, because he's going to go into one. Maybe it's legitimate, maybe it's not. Let's see how big of a stretch it is.
It's recorded, it's released, put up on YouTube. It's blasted through a bunch of right-wing media channels and talking heads, promoted by this Howerton guy. Turns out this guy is like a well-funded and connected, politically right-wing social media operative. We showed this in the video, but I need to be like, explicit about this and say that even dudes like Dan Bongino, that mailbox head man, came in and confirmed that, yeah, this guy basically came in, helped blow Oliver's song up. This basically makes Oliver an overnight sensation to the
Yes, because his message is politically viable to these political people. Does that make him a political operative going in with political motives? You need to establish that properly. Let's see if you do it in this video. You failed last time with some harebrained theories on that.
point where he gets a #1 song on the charts. That's right, numero uno, baby. He's getting media interviews and opportunities, although like he's not exactly towing the line that people are expecting him to tow, given the crowds of people that his song is hitting with. Like there's this interview where I guess he's coming on and talking about how like America's diversity is its strength. There are some right-wing weirdo guys who do not want to hear that. That is for sure. Oliver's song and music video were also played and referenced at the recent GOP presidential primary debate because, again, like I said, the song is doing really well, culturally speaking, in right-wing circles.
Yes, and the right wing sucks at cultural issues typically. They're getting some wins. Okay, of course they want to latch on to a country song. Maybe he's going to retract. Maybe this whole thing is a retraction, saying maybe he's not politically motivated. Maybe he's just being used by people with political motivations. That's the best thing we can get out of
it's dog whistles and it's a tax on the welfare state. It's saying the sorts of things that these people want to hear. But Oliver isn't really happy with the type of attention the song has been getting up until this point. He's actually gone onto social media a couple of times, most boldly when it got played at the GOP debate, just to say like, I don't want anything to do with this. I'm not right. I'm not left. I wrote this song about those people.
Love it. Love it. Pure centrism. More people should take that fucking stance. Okay. You should respect it. Maybe that's why this has an update. See if he's changed it.
It's not just about Joe Biden. He's kind of painting himself at this point as being like a very above the fray, not politically affiliated kind of guy, which he may very well be, even if there are some right-wing-esque talking points espoused in his song. Now, at first when I saw him doing this, part of me was like, oh, I wonder if he's like kind of disgusted with the stuff that he's seeing or the types of people embracing his song and is trying to actively like distance himself from all of this. Honestly, I think Oliver is actually like most Americans and politically speaking is pretty much an ignoramus and doesn't really know.
Oh, the YouTuber going into telling what most Americans should think. A lot of Americans are for Trump, even now. And you are getting on your high and mighty horse saying they're just all idiots. Go with Trump. Are you going to talk about some of the concerns right wings have with all their issues with trans and all that stuff? That's just stupid ignoramus stuff. Coronavirus complete, even though Fauci lied, blah, blah, blah.
What ideas, thoughts, or narratives are coming from what direction. He's just intuitively soaking up whatever it is he's reading or seeing like a sponge, and just by whatever intuition he has, just deciding what makes sense and what doesn't. Which there may be some people watching this video.
Yeah, and how the fuck do you come to your intuition? Are you a terminally online loser who just spouts whatever you think emotionally and go with the one side partisan where you falsely try to pin some sort of harebrained conspiracy theory that this guy is being all this? You even justified in the beginning. Oh, these are all the reasons I might have painted him as a right-wing grifter, blah, blah, blah. In your previous episode with some harebrained things that most people don't concern themselves with in the current ecosystem.
Thinking that's how it should be. That's how I am. What's wrong with that? Well, sir, that's how you end up in a place where you're writing a song where you think you're like defending and fighting for the working class, but you just end up attacking other poor people who are on food assistance. He is taken to Instagram to.
Okay. Who did he attack in the song? Do I have to watch this first video? Is this, or you just projecting your own insecurities on this guy who's just managed to make a viral hit out there?
who's sort of try to explain away his attack on the obese milking welfare in his song. Look, dude, it's a crappy line. Just own up to the fact that the line is crap and has no place and makes no. Dude, it's a crap. His attack on.
Okay, you're saying it's just crappy. Our government likes to throw money at problems without any concept of real solutions that connect the individuals involved. The lyrics contrast that some are left without any or others only left with the option of living on junk food. Meanwhile, farming industry has been corporatized and sold out. Food is entirely too expensive, especially in the national with abundance of farmlands. In politicals, it's all about keeping people who are dependent. Okay. Look, dude, I've never punched down using the classical service. Why even add in that one fucking thing to complete metaphor about punching up? Completely missing the point of people who aren't you with the greater scope of society and just completely dismissing why that line would have been in there. Okay? Yeah, it's not that deep. He thinks the government has some issues of trying to outprice people, making people go on welfare. It fits well with his song. His critique, which isn't entirely, you're looking for way too much out of this one fucking country song that who even knows if he thought he was going to hit it big with this.
On the obese milking welfare in his song. Look, dude, it's a crappy line. Just own up to the fact that the line is crap and has no place and makes no sense in a song that is allegedly a pro-working class song.
Oh, fuck off, Antano. Okay, get your bald head out of your ass and just fucking own up that you're read way too deep. Why is it a crappy song? From someone else's perspective, not your fucking deranged little conspiracy brain who brought up the Mason-Dixon lines fucking thing. Why won't you own up? Okay? Two wrongs don't make a right, and I think you're more in the wrong for being a moron about how deep you fucking looked into it.
And make no mistake, it was an attack on the welfare state, and this is something that does some of the conservative talking head.
No, you bring up Matt Walsh in this, you fucking disingenuous little prick. Okay, what sort of association does, just because he talked about it, fucking guilt by association bullshit, fuckers. I don't even know what to say about this. This is completely deranged to try to use Matt Walsh, a completely deranged theocrat who just will latch onto anything. I'm left leaning, and his legitimate point about the government just throwing money and not putting smart people, reworking smart systems, and just throwing money at something is definitely something I can understand. I agree the simplistic line of it, but you're putting way too much thought into it, and people like you on the right are abstracting something completely ridiculous that you even admit he sort of pushed back on. So get your head out of your own ass and fucking man up and stop trying to cope with your fucking little delusional conspiracy theory about this one thing. I could turn out to be wrong. This could be an op. He could be denying, but more power to the centrist man who ain't falling for either side.
Heads that help blast this song out and make it popular celebrated about the song most. Again, the sentiments of the song rang loud and clear. It hit with the people it was going to hit with, given what Oliver Anthony expressed. And while I am willing to give him the benefit of the doubt,
yeah, loud and clear to you with your conspiracy brain take on it. Okay, yeah.
He was basically too dumb to a degree to understand what it was he was communicating.
Oh, fuck off. What was he communicating? What did you abstract?
It's not to say that Oliver Anthony should be like, just like given a pass for things that he says.
Oh, he shouldn't be given a pass. He should be commended. He should be condemned, even though he came out and be like, I don't agree with all this shit. Right, left, they're all fucking us over. You just hating on the centrists now, little man. I don't know too much. only found out about this through Destiny and your fucking sort of delusional take, which I'll go over now for context.
He still communicated. It caught the ears of the people who sort of like understood the politics and understood the perspective. What I am saying is that I hope that Oliver Anthony has mind enough to look at the situation he's just been through, learn from it, and get some perspective on the power of his words and who he could potentially be hurting, depending on who he decides to shout some negative words at or attack in a forthcoming song. I hope that politically he continues to go his own way, because I don't like the two major political parties in this country either. I know which one is pushing more toward fascism. Here.
Yeah, there's the talking point. Okay. You're trying to take a neutral stance, but you're still fucking casting another side in the fucking boiling pot. Other side isn't pushing for fascism. You're pushing it towards fascism with your fucking little fake ass centrist little bullshit. Just drop this shit. You don't like either side. I don't even know his political affiliation, but him extracting what he did from his original video is just fucking bonkers. Shows how brain rotted Ventato's fucking dung soaked head really has soaked in some of that sort of brain rot shit.
Here's a hint. It's not the one that thinks trans people should be allowed to exist. So given everything
And that's such a fucking bullshit false equivalency. Yes, there's some people like Matt Walsh who takes the fucking extreme, but there are some people on the right and even the left who has issues, and you're just going to cast them as fucking transphobes because you fucking have no sense of nuance or anything of any decent quality and think you're so much smarter than some redneck guy who probably has to work for a living. And this is amazing. I don't even know the details. I would have to look in the details. I assume he's not politically affiliated based on what you had in your own video.
Seeing of Oliver Anthony up until this point, I don't think he's acting nefariously. I don't think he's a crazy right-wing figure either. What's most likely the case is the guy didn't really understand.
Yeah, well, I guess this is the best we're going to get out of it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, he's sort of backtracking while he's doing this little thing. Okay. Let's see what he's backtracking from. Going back in time. Okay, Dark Side. Oh, fuck. Oh, here it is. Passed it like several times.
This is Karina.
And da da da. Do do do. Do do do.
The right wing's new favorite country song comes from an artist named Oliver Anthony, somebody who a year ago, most music publications would probably just say is an unknown singer-songwriter. He hails from Virginia, a town called Farmville, for that matter. Guy recently released a track named Rich Men North of Richmond, and this song has been going mega viral, not just among the sort of psychotic, bigoted, weirdo, conservative influencers.
Okay. Yeah. Associate conservative with bigoted. Go ahead. You know what? I would have really prefaced it with, some conservatives, and, some of those conservatives might be bigoted, but you know what? Fantango, it obviously lacks the ability to communicate properly, and sort of lumping, what he's displaying here is just lumping all conservatives to most people who would watch him.
That, typically will platform dudes like Tom McDonald whenever they see him in a music video jumping on a tank to be like, yeah.
And you're just making a fucking comparison to someone else who makes conservative music, because why the fuck not? Guilt by association. Gotta love it. Convenient tool for you dickbags.
America is awesome, yeah. Even though he's like a Canadian grifter, but I digress. No, this track has been going super viral just about everywhere. This isn't just some kind of weird Trump.
Yeah, who the fuck knows about grifter, okay? Everyone throws grift. Who the fuck knows? He probably thinks Ryan Long is a grifter for all his little... Ryan Long is a grifter for all his little videos, comedy videos with all the anti-woke and woke blah, blah, blah.
Rap that has no impact or influence on anything, and idiots who don't understand how the music industry works are freaking out because, oh my God, it's #1 on iTunes. Nobody buys music on iTunes anymore.
Nobody cares about the people freaking out about the being #1 on iTunes. Yeah.
Like bragging about being the most popular product sold in a store that nobody goes to. But no, this Oliver Anthony song has been getting exposure well beyond that, doing slightly bigger numbers than some mainstream artists get on new singles and music videos, and also spreading pretty far and wide on streaming platforms too. I was going to do a reaction to the track, but honestly, the performance is pretty straightforward, pretty dry. It's just some acoustic guitar, some vocals. The singing isn't the greatest I've ever heard.
Fucking balance. That came out of my right and oh God, sorry. I have headphones on. That fucked with me. How the audio came out there. Fucking trying to jump scare me with that fucking shit. Hearing it just to my right and your fucking little whiny ass voice in my left. Some ASMR subversive shit there.
But it is good. And the playing isn't really what I'm trying to critique or pull apart here anyway. I figured this video might go down better or might make more sense if I just kind of go over the lyrics of the song and try to dissect what it's getting at.
Oh, yes, please, Mr. Music person who beefed with fucking Eminem for some fucking reason. Or was it the other way around? I don't fucking know. Yeah, please dissect country music for all us pleb laymen who are completely idiots because we are educated.
Exactly, because that sort of seems to be the heart of why it's resonating with so many people. All right, let's start in on these lyrics and see what exactly Oliver Anthony is getting at. I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours for bullshit pay. So I can sit here and waste my life, drag back home, and drown my troubles away, which is not a bad sentiment to express on any song, really. Just kind of sounds like struggles personally with depression, working class woes, not being paid enough. Moving into the pre-chorus, it's a damn shame what the world's...
Yep, okay. No problem with that. The depression, Destiny pointed this out. It's not necessarily depression. It's just how you get by on life. Some people are chronic alcoholics. Chronic shit have to put up with the old bullshit.
Gotten to for people like me and people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is. The way he's kind of inviting the audience into the song to relate with what he's going through. It almost has, like a Woody Guthrie type quality to it. It's very, I'm breaking the fourth wall and communicating directly with you.
Okay, is he really doing this? It's damn shame what the world's gone to for people like you and me. Okay, I can see that. Which wake up and not be true. It's very minor. I think he's putting way too much emphasis and way too much overview on this.
That's one of the powerful and significant hallmarks of folk music generally. As far as the writing and the messaging goes so far, Oliver Anthony is making really good use of these tropes, these themes, these mechanisms by which, old world singer-songwriters would try to give perspective to average everyday listeners and also validate their experiences too. Moving into the chorus here.
Yeah, he's really looking deep into it. Like this man is a connoisseur of music theory and shit like that, man. Establishing that as truly the end of the world. Like he knows what he's doing. You gotta hit, even though he was unknown a year ago. And who knows how he really got to this place. Viral hit. Who knows? Probably the dog got it to viral.
Living in the new world with an old soul, these rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just want to have total control. Want to know what you think, want to know what you do. And they don't think you know, but I know that you do because your dollar ain't shit and it's taxed to no end because these rich men north of Richmond. Okay, now this is interesting right here. This is interesting framing and lyricism because he's putting some very old and ignorant tropes.
Okay. Old and ignorant tropes. Maybe I should let him go on. What's old and ignorant tropes about the tax man, the people in DC creating the laws, regulation, taxes, taxing people, poor people, too much to go on, and it makes it life tough for, Farmville people who not necessarily live in the city. Have you ever lived in the rural area, Mr. Fintango? Do you know their perspective? You just think they're all hillbilly hicks who freaking fuck their cousins or shit like that. Is that your particular perspective? I don't know. I don't really care.
Down in a way that is super subtle, artfully subtle, to the point where I think most people wouldn't pick up on it or would be able to write off accusations.
Yeah, explain the bigoted part, okay? You sort of go on. Let's go back. I cut you off because you're being such a fucking dick bag.
Some very old and ignorant tropes down in a way that is super subtle, artfully subtle, to the point where I think most people wouldn't pick up on it or would be able to, like, write off accusations of, like, whatever the mindset, perspective, or, political leanings of this track are. Again, at this point, given the words he's chosen to write the song with, I think a lot of people would just say, well, yeah, he's just singing about working class struggle for.
What are the ignorant tropes? Why are you going mishmash now without saying ignorant tropes and just moving on and going to the defenses? Please enlighten us, idiot plebs. What are these ignorant tropes these lines are displaying? Because I don't know. You haven't explained that. You're just moving on like that assumption is true. And I do not see maybe people in your fucking echo chamber hive mind sort of thinking, we'll just go with it. Oh, yeah. I didn't realize it. It's very subtle, super subtle. Ugh.
Country music fans, he's just getting down on their level. That's all he's doing. But, like, pay attention to the line that the title is named after. He's drawing lines there, not just class lines, as he's framing himself and everybody else listening to and relating to the song as poor and your average person, working class. Mind you, this guy lives on 90 acres from what I understand, but that's neither here nor there, or maybe it is, whatever. But more specifically, he's drawing a geographical line here is.
Yeah, he just moved on from the ignorant tropes without explaining them. And now he's talking about some line. Where's the fuck? Living in a new world with the old soul. Okay, typical lyrics. These rich men north of Richmond, Lord no, they want total control. Okay. People in DC want total control. Their government makes sense. Okay. Don't really see any lines there. Want to know what you think, what you know, what you do. They don't think you know, but you know because you do. Okay? They're talking about the rich men supposedly thinking you don't know what they're doing, but you do because your dollar ain't shit. Because inflation and tax is my assumption there. Because your dollar ain't worth shit. That would indicate inflation and its tax, too high of taxes. Where's the ignorant tropes? Explain how inflation explain how inflation or taxation is ignorant at all. Unless you're freaking communist, then I can understand why the taxation thing would have issues, maybe even the inflation thing, but taxation is the only place that I can see anything or people in DC wanting to have control. Obviously, people go into politics because they want to create rules and blah, blah, blah.
As well, between North and South, using Richmond, Virginia as that dividing line. With that, you can't ignore the elephant in the room. He's like bringing up old, bitter North-South ideological disconnections that go back to the Civil.
This is such a fucking reach. Where? Richmond. Okay. Isn't it established he lives in Richmond? Give me a moment, okay? Why the fuck am I wasting my time with this? Oliver North. Oh, sorry. Oliver Anthony. Just look up where he lives. Just cross-reference. Okay, where does he live? Okay. He lives in Virginia. Okay. Oliver Anthony lives in Virginia. Richmond is a big city in Virginia. And he's talking about the people in DC. You're making some fucking insane stretch to be talking about the Mason-Dixon line and throwing in all these fucking other little issues to sort of, I don't even know what, to try to prime the well, make the song, make it much worse than it really is. I don't even know fucking how far you're going with this.
Civil War era, drawing this North-South line and claiming that it's those people from the North that want to control us and tell us what to do. There's a lot of
you are fucking batshit insane if you're abstracting that from those verses.
Really bad and toxic and often bigoted
political baggage that comes with, you know, that North v South binary. And
But there is none. You're making that shit up. There is no North versus South. He lives in Virginia. Richmond is a good metaphor to sort of Richmond in north of Richmond. You're looking way too deep into this to find your fucking little conspiracy brain how this is a dog whistle. And it's fucking pathetic.
And also on top of it, it literally has nothing to do with the economic struggles that he's singing about in the first portion of the song. Rich men north of Richmond are not the sole reason that you're struggling economically. It's the exploitative and solely profit-driven market system we currently live under.
It's capitalism. Yeah, fucking commie-ass gobbledygook pushing that shit into a common man. Common man ain't got fucking time to fucking be hoity-toity, eternally online, fucking deranged idiocy that you're pushing into this with your own fucking distorted view of the world. Why should this man fucking join your fucking little communist idea? Ugh. Just because this is fucking terminally online, what people talk about and what people do does not mean anyone should respect or care about it in the slightest.
Which is hurting everyone all over the country, regardless of what side of the Mason.
And you're not even considering that he might not have your perspective. That is fucking bigoted. And this fucking music critic on YouTube who probably makes a pretty good buck fucking is judging someone we don't know the economy status of. Yeah, he's got some acres, okay? Is he in debt thanks to that farmland? Did he inherit it? There's just so much you don't fucking know. And for you to push your own fucking ideology on just a songwriter is fucking downright deplorable.
And Dixon line you land on.
With the Wells Fargo Active Cash Card.
And I don't even know if I should fucking continue this. I mean, I went way much further into this than I want. Probably going to cut the stream up because this is turning into its own little side adventure. But fun little coincidences, a nice little break. Saw this on Destiny. Thought I would see how it sort of runs apart.
Start to get a little spicy. I wish politicians would look out for minors and not just minors on an island somewhere. While in the abstract.
Okay. Wish minors on an island somewhere. Okay, he laughed. Maybe he gets the joke. Let's see if he gets the joke.
This is not a bad thing to bring up. Often when the rubber hits the road, the people who are the loudest on this topic seem to turn a blind eye when some of their favorite figures kind of get caught with their hand in the cookie jar. So that's an...
Oh, funny. You bring up Trump and fucking Elon Musk. What about Clinton? Really showing your bias there, man. I think the comparison was Clinton and Trump. You throw Elon over Trump. Sorry. You put Elon over Clinton, showing your bias somewhat. Yeah, you get it, but fuck off.
Interesting line that's kind of at war with itself in a way. Also, the next one, because Lord, we got folks in the street, ain't got nothing to eat, and the obese milking welfare. Him whining about obese people milking welfare. One of the oldest right
wing. Don't blame welfare for obesity in America. Right-wing talking point. Whoa. Right-wing boogeyman. Yeah. Thing up your ass.
Fair. One of the oldest right-wing cries of wolf that there ever was, which is just a...
What about your fucking cry to freaking communism? Okay? You're laden this so much through a freaking communistic lens with how you're reading this. You're reading way too far. This is like some critical theory bullshit. And I don't even know what to say. Again, that head shape, perfect, probably designed perfectly to go right up his ass when he fucking bends backwards to justify this fucking worldview that he's putting out here in this video.
The feigned concern over money being wasted. Oh, that's just wasteful. You're just throwing money down the toilet, feeding these people who are fat, feeding these lazy, good for nothing. When, like, if you want to
making fun of something using an effect does not actually fucking give legitimacy to anything you're fucking saying here with your fucking brain rot that you're spouting out.
Talk about excess spending and waste in this country. Monetarily speaking, fat people on welfare is like toward the bottom rung. A much larger portion of our overall budget as a country goes.
Oh yeah, explain budget to a fucking one line piece in a fucking country song by someone who's completely unknown until recently. Yeah, great. Great way to take this platform to try to educate your audience on your fucking little political rants here. And he's not even fucking doing that.
Goes toward defense spending, goes toward wars, goes toward places like the Pentagon throwing cash left and right with no accountability whatsoever. And also our healthcare system, which, mind you, we pay more for that per capita than any country that actually has a socialized health.
No wonder he fucking no wonder he fucking had to do a fucking update to this, because this is such fucking brain rot. He cut something legitimately that ill moment on his update video that would have been better served in this video than half the crap he's trying to push on any of his audience.
Care system. That is all waste. That is all your tax dollars going down the drain. That is literally the government.
And the fucking half the shit you're talking about is a waste when you're talking about a music song, a country song from someone who came out of nowhere.
And burning your money in your face. Going deeper here, well, God, if you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds, taxes ought not to pay for your bag of fudge rounds. Honestly, there's more than enough money in the US budget to buy everyone enough fudge rounds to the point where we'll just all die and go into a diabetic coma, which comparatively would be money better spent than on another unnecessary invasion, a bunch of military bases that do essentially nothing.
Wah, 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 wah. You're like the fucking adults from fucking Peanuts. You flapping your lips, but nothing of any value is coming out. Yeah, these lines, you can take them as you want. There's some lines you're reading too deep in it. There's no problematic tropes in it from what I've seen. Well, I guess fat shaming. You're trying to get around. He sort of fat shaming some of the people who are poor. Yeah, this is a complex issue, but I think you're looking too deep into some of these fucking lyrics. You like, it's getting popular, push because people are pushing it. Yeah, fuck off. You're using it for your political agendas. Of course, the other side would do the exact same thing. Fucking.
Or, I don't know, just putting that money into the pockets of price gouging big pharma CEO assholes. So to put it clearly, if your worry right now for your average person in this country is how far their dollar goes, how much money they're making, and you're thinking about like, where does that come from? Where does that problem originate? What is the solution? And your head first goes to fat people on welfare, bro.
Yeah, your head's going up your ass and you're missing a fucking damn point. I don't even freaking care about this song. I just find this to be such a brain dead fucking push for your politics, but the other side are the fascists. Might as well just tack this on at the end. Break it off later. Me, future, edit it out. Wow.
Bro, your priorities are fucked because the issues and the problems you're talking about would still persist even if there wasn't a single person who was fat and on welfare. Young men are putting themselves 6 feet in the ground because all this damn country does is keep on kicking them down. Which, again, I don't think this is a bad sentiment to convey, but
Thank God he didn't fucking think this is some conspiracy brain theory. But let's see how he goes on.
I think Oliver Anthony has the wrong target in his sights when it comes to like what is creating that inequity and what is creating that lack of opportunity.
Oh yeah, fucking push the LGBTQ suicide rates among fucking hell. Push your fucking politics.
It's not fat people eating sweet treats that may have been paid for with EBT. Finishing things up with
fucking such a moron. People who were obese were much more likely to die from COVID. What? 2 years ago? What the fuck? Saying overweight, not thinking about where you're getting food, not being healthy. Yeah, I'm reading too deep in this now. I'm more reading too deeply off of Fantano's bullshit here.
The chorus, and yeah, he's singing about how these rich men north of Richmond, they want all that total control. The irony is not lost on me that
still waiting for how that line really brings up any bigoted tropes that you were talking about. You just trope. This is bigoted. Just go along with me. It's obviously bigoted because of all this other context around it, which you're inventing out of fucking almost thin air.
Origins of these bad north-south relations draw back to the want for control and ownership of literal human beings. But yeah, reading through this, I'm not really surprised to see this track popping off with the groups of people that it is, because again, it's really kind of drawing back to the same old story, the same old bullshit of North versus South, but it's just putting it.
Yeah, and your abstract from that is fucking complete and utterly invention within your own fucking head. You're fucking thinking this is some really weird op, and it's really not. And no wonder he did an update, especially with what he came out with, and he still tried to twist it. Oh, it's completely deplorable in so many different ways. And he really just wants to push this shit so fucking far.
In a slightly subtler package. And some of you may be watching this video reacting, thinking, Anthony, why are you covering this? It's just like a right-wing country song. There's a million of them. But I think it's worth exploring and talking about the fact that the right-wingification of country music has long been a political project that dates back to the Nixon administration. It's not just a post 9/11 thing, as some Zoomers and younger millennials seem to think. And because
again, he gets into this total fucking brain rot. I don't think it's worth continuing. Other people covered it. I think he's coming to a wind down, but this is just such a fucking complete bullshit. But you know what? I started with EFAP. Decided to do this to unwind. Covered this video that I saw. And it is complete garbage along with the update. And I don't even know what to say about it anymore. Seems to be someone watching. Sorry, came in at the wrong time. I'm going to break at least this off into its own separate video. Don't know if I'll do anything with the EFAP content I did earlier. But yeah, I'm sort of done. Vincent Martin signing out. Take care. Good night or whatever time of day you're watching this shit.